Chapter 149. The Central State Four Academies tournament had begun. In this era where entertainment methods were lacking, this kind of pinnacle competition, where powerhouses collided, shocking and exciting, and where dark horses often made a comeback, was enough to make the commoners crazy and obsessed, turning it into a carnival and feast. The contestants for the great competition were normally from Central State Academy. The four academies would select 5 groups of the most elite teams, adding up to a total of 20 groups of over 100 people. They would go through the preliminaries, the ranking competition, and the challenge competition before choosing the top 6. This year, the headmaster suddenly decided to allow 2 groups of youths from Central State to compete against the geniuses and elites of Central State Academy. The entire Central State city was stirred. There were several hundred people that came to sign up. With the nature of this competition, injuries and deaths were common. It was just for the youths to show themselves and build a good reputation for their families, but it was not worth it for the large families to send out their best geniuses. It would also not make these rogue cultivators go crazy. Just like the South Sky City Summit competition, it looked like a normal competition on the surface, but it was actually related to the division of benefits. The Central State Great Competition was also like this, and it had to be explained from the history of Central State City. 350 years ago, this was a desolate area that had been abandoned for thousands of years. When it was discovered by Southern Xia, it quickly rose up and became the main city of Central State. Other than this superior location, the main reason was that there was a very prosperous ancient city here. Although the ancient city had disappeared, there were many secret areas left behind. The most famous one was an ancient trial tower that was now called the Central State Tower. There was no way to verify when the Central State Tower was built. This was because the scholars had found that the Central State Tower was even older than the ancient ruins. This also meant that the trial tower had already existed thousands of years before the ancient city was built. This trial tower was the reason for the ancient city's formation. The Central State Tower opened once every 5 years, and the participants could not be over 30 years old. The number of people that could participate in the trial could not exceed 10. The 4 great families could obtain 1 spot, and the rest would be decided by Central State Academy. The goal of the Central State Great Competition was to compete for the right to participate in the trial. The headmaster Feng Yunhu changing the rules was not in accordance with the rules, but adding 2 groups of people did not have a large impact on the competition. The large families expressed that they could accept it, and the citizens did not have any objections. The more people there were, the livelier it was, and there were more variables. Chu Tian did not have much interest in the Central State Tower's trial. However, he could use this chance to slap the faces of the 3 great families and at the same time announce to Central State City, "I, Chu Tian, have come." This was enough to form the motivation for Chu Tian to participate. However, when Chu Tian registered as an ordinary rogue cultivator, he encountered a problem. The participating teams had to be made up of 6 people. It was impossible for a single person to register. At this moment, hundreds of rogue cultivators and cultivators from small clans had gathered at the registration location, hoping to try their luck. There was a sea of people. It was very crowded. They were all young awakened soul realm cultivators. There was no lack of people looking for a team. When did awakened soul cultivators become so worthless? These people weren't even 30 years old, so they could be said to be very young. Some of them were secretly groomed by sects and underground factions, while others were exceptionally talented wandering cultivators. Chu Tian searched for a while. There was a team that attracted his attention. They were all at the second awakened soul layer, and each of them had a fierce aura around them. It was clear that they were all experienced people. The leader was a one-eyed man that wasn't even 30 years old. He held a green dragon crescent blade and had a thick beard. He was very eye-catching in the crowd. Isn't that the green dragon blade Chi Ba? He is a famous person in the mercenary world. I never thought that even he would come to participate. This is going to be fun to watch. Everyone was discussing with each other. They were afraid of the person holding the green dragon blade. This person's strength was clearly very strong. This was the strongest team present. It was a coincidence that they were missing one person. Chu Tian had the idea of joining, so he went up to express his intentions. First awakened soul layer? With just this bit of strength, you still want to join our team? We are aiming for the top 10. Aren't you just holding us back with just this bit of strength? Take advantage of father's anger. Quickly scram for me. Otherwise I'll break your legs. This was the so-called reputation of a person. A first awakened soul layer cultivator that wasn't even 20 years old, and didn't have any fame. Of course these people would look down on him. They were looking down on him again. Why were there so many people in this world that looked down on others? Chu Tian said, if anyone thinks I'm not qualified, then we can have a competition. Brat, do you not understand human language? We said we don't want it. Chiba said in a firm voice, scram. The little fox unhappily called out to Chu Tian, telling Chu Tian to teach them a lesson. Actually Chu Tian had this thought, but before he could make a move, a voice came from behind him. Chiba is so powerful. Chiba's expression instantly changed. It's you two. What, you want to join in this mess? Two energetic young men walked over. Isn't this the Underworld Twin Heroes? The Underworld Mercenary Group is a newly formed mercenary group, but they have already established quite a bit of fame in Central State City. These two are the founders of the Underworld Mercenary Group. Not only are they young, they also have great skills. Even the Ye family extended an olive branch to them, but it's a pity they rejected them. The two young mercenaries looked at Chu Tian without any objections. Ah, it's you. The three of them were stunned at the same time. The two young mercenaries were not strangers. They were actually Lin Mu and Fong Han. Back in Yellowstone City, Chu Tian had saved their lives. Chu Tian's lips curled into a faint smile. I haven't seen you in a long time. It seems like your strength has increased by quite a bit. The two of them gave an awkward smile. Not at all, not at all. It's all thanks to you. Chiba was speechless and everyone stared at each other with wide eyes. These two young people were the rising stars of the Central State mercenary world, but they were actually this respectful in front of this nameless youth. Why was this? Chu Tian suddenly had a new idea. You guys don't seem to have enough people. Why don't we form a team? What do you think? Lin Mu and Fong Han were overjoyed. This is really great. Chiba, you really are a fucking idiot. If this brat joins your team, the two of us would have no chance of winning. Isn't the situation the exact opposite? Chiba's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. Lin Mu, Fong Han, you two have been in the limelight recently. I have long been displeased with you guys. I want to use the competition as an opportunity to teach you a lesson. Lesson? Then you'll have to have the ability to do so. We'll see. There were 3 people in a team of 6. They were still missing 3 people. Who should they find? Lu Ren. Just as Chu Tian was in a dilemma, a very magnetic female voice came over. It was an extremely beautiful woman dressed in palace attire. She was tall and had a noble temperament. Her eyebrows were like a painting. Her beauty could topple a city, and she had a classical and gentle feeling of a noble lady, causing people to unconsciously have a breathtaking feeling. Really strange. Chu Tian did not remember ever coming in contact with this beautiful woman. What, you don't recognize me? This beautiful woman's voice was very magnetic, making Chu Tian feel a trace of familiarity. He suddenly thought of something and revealed a surprised expression. You're Kai Dai. Although her appearance was different from before, her temperament and voice were the same. This person was not someone else. It was the Kai Dai he had met in the black market. Because I'm outside, it's not convenient to show my face. I hope Brother Lu doesn't mind. Fong Kai Dai revealed a faint smile. I'm called Fong Kai Dai. Chu Tian nodded and said, I can understand. Brother Lu, I never thought I would meet you here. A young man walked up. Of course Chu Tian knew this person. Wasn't this Xiang Hu, who had traveled with him before? At this moment, Xiang Hu's aura had become a lot stronger. It was clear he had gained a lot in this time. He had now become an awakened soul cultivator. Other than Fong Kai Dai and Xiang Hu, there was also a youth here. This person was very young. He was around the same age as Chu Tian. He was around 16 to 17 years old. He had a head of long blue hair, wearing a gorgeous robe, and his face was filled with pride. When Lin Mu and Fong Han heard Fong Kai's name, they were both shocked. Wasn't she Shen Fengho's daughter? Fong Kai Dai was very famous in Central State, The main reason was because of her innate clear meridian. The dignified Shen Fengho's only daughter was actually a cripple, not to mention Central State City. Even in southern Xia, this was a strange story. What was even more surprising was that Feng Yuntian still regarded his daughter as a pearl in his palm. The resources the Feng family invested in her, it was comparable to the four young masters. Because of this, the Feng family was not inferior to the four great families, they even had more power. The experts of the younger generation were only the Central State four young masters. There was no Feng family member. This made the Feng family fall into a very awkward situation. Xiang, who has already been accepted as my father's disciple, and this is my younger cousin, Feng Qingyun. The three of us are here to participate in the great competition. And I can see that you're here to participate as well. You have 3 people and we have 3 people, so why don't we team up? The great competition required 6 people to form a team. Now that Chu Tian had 3 people and Feng Kaidai had also brought 3 people, wouldn't it be just right for the 6 of them to form a team? Chu Tian did not even have time to speak. The strength of these 2 mercenaries is not bad. They have the qualifications to join our team. Feng Qingyun gave a cold snort and looked at Chu Tian with disdain. As for you? Too weak. Leave by yourself. Feng Kaidai couldn't help feeling a bit angry. I won't allow you to insult my friend. Insult? Did I insult him? I only spoke the truth. The weak should have the awareness of the weak. Even those dirty mercenaries don't want him to join us. What qualifications does he have to join us? If he doesn't have the strength, then why is he joining us? This kind of competition is not something he should come to. Feng Qingyun's face was filled with arrogance as he said to Chu Tian in a provocative manner. You're not convinced. How about we have a fight? Shut up. Feng Kaidai knew her cousin's personality and knew that this cousin was not simple. She quickly stood in front of Feng Qingyun. Did you forget what my father said? I'm the one leading the team today, so everything is up to me. If I say he can join, then he can join. Humph, I knew that you would bring up Shen Fengho again. You can only rely on your father for the rest of your life. Feng Qingyun crossed his arms and walked away with an unhappy expression. But since you've brought up Shen Fengho to suppress me, then you can do whatever you want. It's just another foil. Feng Kaidai stood there with an awkward expression. Chapter 150. Feng Qingyun had a cultivation technique to hide his aura. If Chu Tian did not open his mind's eye, he could not feel the other side's strength. But with this kind of arrogant attitude, not even giving Feng Kaidai any face, he should have some qualifications to be arrogant. Feng Qingyun and Feng Kaidai were members of the Feng family, and not Central State Academy students. The reason they could participate in this competition was because of the family's rules. From this matter, it could be seen that the dean's rules were not changed for their own family. The Feng family must have placed high hopes on these 2 people. Feng Kaidai said with a helpless expression. Qingyun is my second uncle's son. He has been studying abroad for the past few years, and has come back to participate in this competition. He has never had any good impressions of me since he was young, and even had many misunderstandings towards me. So when he saw that you have a good relationship with me, it was hard to avoid making things difficult for him. He was just a brat that was still wet behind the ears. Although his words were somewhat insulting, as long as it was not too excessive, out of respect for Feng Kaidai, Chu Tian would not care about it like a child. The 6 of them formed a group. Feng Kaidai became the leader of the group and signed up for the competition. Now that the competition was underway, the groups would fight against each other, and the group that won would fight in the next round. Only 2 groups would participate in the competition. There were over 10 participating groups and they were all famous rogue cultivators and mercenaries in Central State City. The Central State Academy's decision to change the rules was too sudden, and the news had not yet spread to the various cities and towns. The outsiders could not come to Central State City to participate in the competition. Everyone began to draw lots to decide their opponents. Feng Katie's team against the Taurus team. The first opponent was a group of mercenaries and rogue cultivators. There were several small mercenary group leaders, so they should have some strength. Feng Kaidai was filled with confidence. Let me go. Chu Tian could feel that Feng Katie's strength was above the second awakened soul layer. In terms of cultivation base, she was several levels higher than Chu Tian. Feng Kaidai was Shen Fengho and Feng Yuntian's daughter, so the cultivation resources she had were not something rogue cultivators could compare to. Dang. The copper type was struck. The competition had officially begun. Kill. The 6 members of the Golden Bull team all awakened the power of their source spirits and charged out from different directions. All kinds of fierce attacks rained down like rain. Feng Kaidai was calm and unhurried. Like an illusory butterfly, her delicate body turned into an afterimage as she continuously moved horizontally and flashed. Her speed was so fast that it was hard to see with the naked eye. The Taurus mercenaries couldn't even touch the corner of her clothes. What a powerful movement technique. While the Taurus team was shocked, they also had a bad feeling. Feng Katie's legs lightly leaped up like a graceful bird soaring into the sky. Green essence force blossomed out and lingered around her body. Creak. In an instant, a clear ringing sound rang out. A massive green bird rushed out of Feng Katie's body. This bird was incredibly majestic, and its body was covered with mysterious runes. A noble and extraordinary aura covered the entire area, and that intense pressure caused the Taurus team's people to continuously retreat. Chu Tian narrowed his eyes. The Azure Phoenix of Wind? It really is a good source spirit. Blue Wan. A legendary creature. She has a source spirit close to the god level. The Taurus team never would have thought that they would meet such a terrifying opponent in the first round. The 6 of them were only at the first awakened soul layer, and their source spirits were only at the mid to low level. Not to mention Feng Kaidai was already at the peak second awakened soul layer. Even if she was at the first awakened soul layer like them, with the increase in strength from the Blue Wan source spirit, she would be able to fight against the 6 of them. The Taurus team was not willing to lose like this. Let's go all out. Feng Katie's hands came together, sweeping wind. The Blue Wan suddenly turned into countless strands of pure blue spirit energy. Under Feng Katie's control, the spirit energy began to spin at a high speed, forming a terrifying spirit energy storm. In the end, it turned into a huge green tornado and swept towards the 6 people. This is bad. Run! How could these people run faster than the wind? The tornado rushed over with overwhelming speed and power. Before the 6 of them could resist, they were swallowed by the tornado on the spot. They were lifted high into the air and completely lost their ability to resist. In the end, they were thrown out of the arena. Feng Kaidai had a sense of propriety. Although she had defeated the 6 of them, she did not harm them at all. We're convinced. Young Miss Feng's strength is truly strong. The 6 of them were convinced of their loss. Although Feng Kaidai was a peak second awakened soul layer cultivator, with the power of the Blue Wan source spirit, she could even fight a triple awakened soul cultivator. This central state city waste young miss, when did she become this strong? The surrounding spectators all stared with wide eyes. Cultivation base, cultivation technique, and source spirit, they were all first class. Was this still Feng Kaidai? It took the audience a long time to recover before they burst into applause and cheers. Good. Good fight. Feng Kaidai stood on the stage and looked around at the people cheering for her. The excitement and emotion in her heart could not be described with words. No one could understand the pressure Feng Kaidai was under. She was the only daughter of Shen Fengho and Feng Yuntian. In order to raise Feng Kaidai, the Feng family had spent a lot of resources. However, Feng Kaidai had an innately blocked meridian and could not cultivate at all. Everything the Feng family did, not only did they not gain anything, they became the laughingstock of Central State City. Feng Kaidai had grown up in this kind of ridicule. The reason she could hold her head high today was all because of the unknown youth behind her. It could be said that Chu Tian had given her a new lease on life. Feng Qingyun's eyes were filled with darkness. I never thought that this vase would have a day where she could turn things around. The second match began. On this side, it was still Feng Kaidai who came out and easily won without any suspense. Feng Kaidai had been cultivating all kinds of unique cultivation techniques of Shen Fengho since she was young. From defense to offense, from movement to strange techniques, there was nothing she didn't learn. When she was in the body refinement realm, these cultivation techniques could not be used at all. However, once she entered the awakened soul realm, The cultivation techniques she had cultivated for many years would naturally reach the realm of mastery. Because of this, Feng Katie's overall strength was very strong. Now that she had awakened the powerful Blue Luan Source Spirit and obtained a strong amplification effect, even if she fought against someone with a triple awakened soul, she would still be able to fight. With Chu Tian's current strength, he did not have a 100% chance of winning against an opponent with a triple awakened soul. So with Feng Katie's current strength, she definitely had the qualifications to participate in the final battle of the Great Games. This was a seeded player with a lot of potential. Round after round, Feng Katie's various cultivation techniques appeared one after another, constantly shocking everyone present. As for the other members of Feng Katie's team, they did not even have a chance to make a move. Finally, the selections reached the final round. Now, among the remaining 4 groups, there would only be one more victory before the preliminaries would end. The 2 groups that won would be the ones to enter the official competition. Team Feng Kaidai against Team Chiba. The crowd went into an uproar. Feng Katie's strength had already been displayed without a doubt. But Chiba's team was not a normal group. Not only were they all experts at the second awakened soul layer, they were all experts with profound cultivation techniques and battle experience. This was truly a strong battle that everyone was looking forward to. But Chiba's team had ugly expressions on their faces. This was because even if the 6 of them worked together, they did not have a high chance of winning against Feng Kaidai. Not to mention that Feng Katie's team had Lin Mu and Feng Han, these 2 rising stars of the mercenary world. So their chances of winning this competition were very slim. Chiba said with a serious expression, "There is only one way for us to win. If they send out a single person again. If the 6 of us can defeat Feng Kaidai, then the others won't be a threat at all." That's right. Let's do it like this. From the momentum that Feng Kaidai had accumulated, she would most likely choose to fight alone. If the 6 of them worked together to deal with her, then they would have a chance of winning. When the 6 of them had thought of a strategy, "You've worked hard." Chu Tian pulled out the netherworld sword with a schwa sound. He walked past Feng Kaidai and walked to the center of the stage. "This time it's my turn to exercise my muscles." Feng Qingyan gave a cold snort and said with a face filled with ridicule, "You're just a trivial first body refinement layer waste. Yet you want to fight 6 second awakened soul layer cultivators. Are you prepared to disgrace yourself?" Feng Katie's eyes flashed with a trace of worry. "Lu Run, I know you're not weak, but they're all second awakened soul layer cultivators. I don't have any confidence in winning." "You." Feng Kaidai knew that this Lu Run was very strong. In the 10,000 corpse ancient tomb, how many fierce characters had fallen to his hands? But that was in the ancient tomb and he was affected by the restriction. Chu Tian was only a 9th body refinement layer cultivator at that time. How long had it been since then? Chu Tian had stepped into the awakened soul realm, but he should have just broken through. Without any restriction, he wanted to challenge 6 experienced second awakened soul layer cultivators? It wasn't that Feng Kaidai didn't believe in his strength, but it was hard to imagine. Feng Qingyan coldly said, "I don't think you guys can do it, let me do it." Chu Tian ignored Feng Qingyan and said to Feng Kaidai, "Relax. It's fine." After saying this, he ignored Feng Qingyan's gloomy face and walked forward. Chiba's expression turned sluggish. "Why is it a waste like you?" Another person said with a smile, "This brat was rejected by our team, but he really has some dog shit luck. He held on to young Miss Feng Katie's thigh and actually made it to the last round. I advise you not to ask for trouble. Quickly scram. Let young Miss Feng personally come." Another member of Chiba's team said, "Could it be that the mighty young Miss Feng is suddenly afraid, so she sent this waste to help you test the waters?" Chu Tian shook his head and said, 1/ per person. Chiba was stunned. "What did you say?" Chu Tian did not explain and slowly raised his sword. On the surface of the blade, there was a blue and white flame that ignited. "There's something fishy about this brat. Go. Take care of him." Chiba's group of 6 prepared to make a move. Hong. The netherworld sword released a giant flame that instantly swallowed Chu Tian's body. When the flames around him dissipated, Chu Tian had already disappeared. Where did he go? Why did he disappear? The 6 of them did not even have time to be shocked. Shwa. A burning sword glow slashed down with an unstoppable force. Ah! The weapon and armor of the person in front shattered, and his protective spirit energy was as weak as paper. The netherworld ghost flame covered his body and he cried out in fear. He quickly rolled on the ground trying to extinguish the flame. The netherworld flame was not a normal flame. How could it be easily extinguished? The more he struggled, the stronger the flame became. He only saw the sword glow. He could not see the person. This was the style of an assassination cultivation technique. Chiba never would have thought that this ordinary-looking youth would actually have this kind of cultivation technique. Assassination cultivation techniques were strange and unpredictable, so it was very hard to practice them. Normally speaking, assassination cultivation techniques were very strong, but they could not last long. However, what made Chiba's blood run cold was that after this youth sent out a slash, he did not reveal himself. Shwa. Not even a second had passed. A burning sword glow appeared at the back of the team, and another member was hit. His weapon and armor shattered at the same time, and the netherworld flame ignited his protective spirit energy, instantly turning him into half a man on fire. Too fast. He did not even have time to think. Shwa, 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 shwa. He could only hear several sharp sounds breaking through the air. Chiba could not even lock onto the youth's shadow. When the strong sword glows slashed down, the weapons in his hands were cut in half and his armor was cut to pieces. Clearly, the youth was being merciful. If he really wanted to kill them, they would have died 10 times over. When the 6 of them were easily defeated, Chu Tian raised his long sword and calmly walked out. Do you still want to fight? We admit defeat. They never would have dreamed of this. This youth had such a strong strength. They were truly blind at that time. If they had recruited this kind of person into their team, even if they met Feng Katie's team, they would still have a large chance of winning. Regret. Helplessness. Shame. Chiba and the others wished they could find a hole to hide in. They felt a trace of respect for this seemingly ordinary youth. The 6 of them had humiliated him, but this youth did not take the chance to kill them. This kind of breadth of mind was not something normal people had. Thank you for being merciful. We are sincerely convinced. We apologize for our stupid actions. Chiba and the others gave a sigh and left the stage. How could they know that Chu Tian was disdainful of arguing with them? That would be too degrading. The battle had ended in less than 10 seconds, and the audience could not understand what had happened. Feng Kaidai was secretly shocked in her heart. When Chu Tian was in the 9th body refinement layer, he could use his strong defense and source spirit to challenge a first awakened soul layer cultivator, but now his strength was even stronger than before. He had not used his full strength in this battle. Chu Tian's sword source spirit that was not inferior to a god-level sword spirit had not been used, and he had not used his strong defensive cultivation technique. So in this battle he had not even used 50% of his strength. This unpredictable sword art, adding on the incomparably tyrannical defensive power, as well as the amplification from his source spirit, most third awakened soul layer cultivators would not be his opponent. He really was worthy of being him. He did not disappoint them. When Feng Qingyun saw the power Chu Tian had revealed, his brows slightly jumped up, but he quickly calmed down. So what if you have 2 skills? You won't be able to enter the finals with this kind of strength. Do you think that any random cat or dog can enter the central state trial? He seemed to purposely speak loudly so that Chu Tian, who had just returned, could hear him. Chu Tian knit his brows. What grudges this fellow had with Feng Kaidai, Chu Tian did not care. This was their family's matter, but no matter how deep their grudges were, there was still a perpetrator for every debt. What kind of skill was it to take it out on others? Chu Tian was giving Feng Kaidai face, so he did not lower himself to his level. This repeated provocation, he was not putting father in his eyes at all. Chapter 151. Chu Tian still had a calm appearance on the surface, but a cold glow flashed in the depths of his eyes. Your Excellency is very confident in your own strength. I don't dare, but it's more than enough to take care of you. Feng Qingyun did not give him any face at all as he continued to provoke him. What, you're not convinced? I'll give you a chance to challenge me. How about I let you have 10 moves first? He was provoking him to this degree. Did Chu Tian still want to pretend to be a grandson? Feng Kaidai saw that the situation was not right and quickly stood in between the two of them. Qingyan, that's enough. If you have any dissatisfaction, come at me. Why do you keep making things hard for my friend? How could I dare? You have a Shen Fengho as your father. Feng Qingyan said in a strange voice and then looked over at Chu Tian. A piece of trash that relies on a woman to protect him. It's fine if I don't make a move. After saying this, he arrogantly walked past Chu Tian. Feng Kaidai had an apologetic expression as she said to Chu Tian, Brother Liu, please don't mind him. Qingyan has been sent away by the family to cultivate for several years, and has only recently returned to the central state main city. It's said that he had quite a bit of harvest, so it's best if you don't directly clash with him. Chu Tian did not even give Chu Xinghe any face. What did this brat count for? But Chu Tian was very curious as he said, Why is your cousin's relationship not good at all? Feng Kaidai revealed a helpless expression. I do feel guilty towards him. Oh. Chu Tian was a little interested. What's going on? You know that I had an innately terminated meridian, so there was no value in raising me. It's only because of my father that the family still threw the best resources on me, wasting countless precious resources for nothing. However, they didn't achieve the desired results. If it wasn't for me, these resources would have been used on Qingyan. With his talent, he would not be any worse than the 4 young masters. Because of these things, he's holding a grudge against you? I think it's more than that. Chu Tian gave a laugh. You no longer have an innately terminated meridian, so your talent might not lose to his. The spiritual energy in your body has allowed your growth to soar. He wasn't giving you a good look, because he was jealous and fearful. This kind of person is too narrow-minded and won't achieve much. You don't have to feel guilty, it's not your fault. Feng Kaidai blushed. This is all thanks to your care. Father wishes to meet you in private. Marquis Ye's elegance has already been seen. If there is a chance, I will see it again. Who was Feng Katie's father? The answer was already on the verge of being revealed. Feng Kaidai was the daughter of Shen Fengho and Feng Yuntian. Chu Tian had always wondered why Shen Fengho would help him out. At that time, even if Chu Tian had used Yi Tianlang to force Yi Wudao to retreat, South Sky City would not have been at peace. Feng Yuntian suddenly appeared to resolve this matter, and even forbade the Ye family from setting foot in Tiannan City. This allowed Chu Tian to have a period of peace. This fellow was quite a character. He had to meet him when he had the chance. This fellow Feng Qingyan, if he knew that Feng Kaidai was cured by him, he would hate him even more. He would want to skin Chu Tian alive. But then again, Feng Qingyan was not weak at all. At the very least, he was not weaker than Feng Kaidai. Even after seeing the netherworld flickering flames' unfathomable speed and might, Feng Qingyan was still arrogant enough to give Chu Tian 10 moves. This meant that he was not simple at all. Even if Chu Tian was hiding his strength, he did not dare say that he could win against him. But he was still in the Void Soul realm, so how strong could he be? After the competition ended, 2 groups were chosen. One of the groups was naturally Chu Tian's group. The other group's strength was not bad. They were rogue cultivators in name, but they were actually retainers of large families or young geniuses of large families. Because they were young and talented, they were highly regarded by the large families and were not cultivating in Central State Academy. Didn't they say they would choose people that were not from Central State Academy? Whether it was their age or status, they all met the requirements. The competition would begin tomorrow. Chu Tian needed to make some preparations. After Chu Tian returned, he immediately went into closed-door cultivation. At this moment, in the center of the closed-door cultivation room, there was a giant stone. It was as black as ink and was made of volcanic glass. There was a jumping green flame sealed within it. Elemental Source Stone. Yunyao had followed Chu Tian's request and secretly bought it here. When it came to the elemental source, the netherworld sword couldn't help letting out a faint cry. The weapon spirit could feel the energy in the elemental source. It was very thirsty for power. Don't be anxious. I'll give it to you right now. A dark blue sword tip stabbed into the elemental source stone. and the sharp sword tip stabbed into the center of the dark flame. In an instant, the giant elemental source stone began to violently tremble. On the smooth ice crystal blade, a large amount of dense runes appeared like a spider web. The netherworld flame was not controlled by Chu Tian, and it automatically spat out, turning the blade into a burning flame. Pure, thick, an energy flowed into the netherworld sword like a river, constantly nourishing the sword, and allowing the netherworld flame to grow. If this continued, the netherworld flame's strength would increase by several times. What Chu Tian did not expect was that a pure spiritual energy entered his body through the sword hilt, and spread through his meridians. This elemental source stone could have been left behind by a high-level elemental being, so the energy inside was very strong. When the dark and flame essences were absorbed by the netherworld sword, a large amount of spiritual energy was left behind. This thing was useless to the sword, so it was sent to Chu Tian's body. The person raised the sword raised the person, and the person raised the sword. Chu Tian cultivated the sword art, and increased the netherworld sword strength. When the netherworld sword became stronger, it would also feed back to Chu Tian, increasing his strength in all aspects. Even Chu Tian did not expect this. Because the spiritual energy inside the elemental source stone was in a solidified state, it was impossible to directly extract. However, the netherworld sword had the ability to extract it. This is great. Chu Tian would not let go of such a good chance. He immediately sat down and held the sword with both hands. He opened his meridians and absorbed the spiritual energy into his body, refining it. The amount of spiritual energy was very large. It had completely surpassed Chu Tian's imagination. Chu Tian could feel the spirit energy in his body becoming larger and larger, finally reaching a critical point. He was just a step away. This kind of once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, how could Chu Tian let it go? Do it in one go. Break through his meridian. Countless strands of new spirit energy gathered in his dantian. Chu Tian's body released a strong glow, and an invisible wave of spirit energy was released. The entire room began to tremble, and the walls began to crack. What's going on? Such a strong aura. Yin Yao had been standing guard outside the entire time. When she felt the aura coming from the room, she immediately understood that Chu Tian was about to make a breakthrough. When Yin Yao and Chu Tian had first met, he was just a normal ninth body refinement layer cultivator. He had already reached the second awakened soul layer in such a short period of time? This kind of speed was too fast. What made Yin Yao's heart tremble was that when Chu Tian broke through to the second awakened soul layer, the pressure and aura was too strong. It was not something a void soul cultivator should have. His battle strength had increased along with his cultivation. Now in the void soul realm, it would be hard to find an opponent. After around half an hour, the room gradually calmed down. Chu Tian let out a long sigh and pulled out the sword from the Dawn Stone. The originally jade-like Dawn Stone had now become like a piece of broken stone, and the origin fire within it had also been completely extinguished. The netherworld sword released an even colder aura. This sword had been sealed in the ancient tomb for countless years, and the weapon spirit had almost dried up. When Chu Tian used the new netherworld flame to form a new weapon spirit, it was still very weak, and could not display the true power of a soul-contracting weapon. This time, the weapon spirit had been fully nourished. Although it was still far from its peak, compared to before, the sword's power had increased by quite a bit. The most important thing was, Chu Tian's netherworld flame sword had been greatly improved. From the small success realm, it had reached the mastery realm. In terms of power, it could not be compared to before. Yin Yao looked at him coming out. There aren't many people that can be your match in the great games. You have a chance of being the champion. Being the champion isn't enough. Chu Tian revealed a mysterious smile and swaggered out. Wasn't this brat's tone a bit too big? His tone was like the championship was already in his grasp. Although he was already in the second awakened soul layer, it was not guaranteed he would be the champion. There were many strong opponents in the Great Games. The next morning, the Central State Great Games had officially begun. The Great Games had attracted the attention of the large families in Central State, and the commoners were treating it as a grand event. The great games had not even begun, but the large gambling houses had already opened, and the entire city was guessing who would be the champion. Chu Wufeng. Looking at the data from the large gambling houses, this person had the highest chance of winning. Chu Wufeng was Chu Xinghe's little brother, and was only 5 years younger than Chu Xinghe. Other than Chu Xinghe, he was recognized by the Chu family as the most talented member of the Chu family's third generation. Chu Wufeng had just turned 21 years old, and had occupied the Central State Academy Azure Dragon Courtyard for over 2 years. Of the 4 courtyards of Central State Academy, the Azure Dragon Courtyard was the strongest. Chu Wufeng could be considered the #1 person in Central State Academy. Some people said that Chu Wufeng's greatest regret was being born in the same generation as Chu Xinghe. This was a reasonable statement. The Chu family did not have a person like Chu Xinghe, so all the resources would be given to Chu Wufeng. He could completely carry the banner of the Chu family's third generation, and be on the same level as the other 4 young masters. The heavens truly blessed the Chu family. It was fine if there was a dazzling and brilliant Chu Xinghe. Now there was a super genius Chu Wufeng. It really made the other 3 families envious. Of course, everyone deliberately ignored a single person. That miraculous youth in the distant South Sky City. He was also surnamed Chu. Perhaps it was because there were too many geniuses in this generation of the Chu family. It did not matter if there was one more or one less. Up until now, the Chu family had treated him as an abandoned child. Not only did they not have any thoughts of taking him back into the family, they even wanted to kill him. This caused Chu Tian and the Chu family to have a falling out, and now they were like fire and water. Other than Chu Wufeng, Yi Hen and Luo Jinshi, these 2 were also popular candidates for the championship. Yi Hen and Luo Jinshi were not much worse than Chu Wufeng. One was the White Tiger champion, and the other was the Black Tortoise champion. They were Chu Wufeng's greatest competitors in Central State Academy. The 3 of them often fought and each had their own victories and defeats. Although Chu Wufeng was slightly stronger, he did not have complete confidence in winning. If there were no accidents, the champion would be one of the 3. However, this year's competition was not normal, because there were too many uncertain factors. It was said that the Central State Academy's Vermilion Bird Courtyard, which had been silent for many years, had a super genius that had just entered the academy for a month. This person had a source spirit, which was rare in Central State City. Just based on the strength of his source spirit, he was even stronger than the 4 young masters, and could be considered to be in the god level. Other than that, the Yin family's young master that had been underestimated had suddenly erupted on the eve of the competition. As for how strong he was, it was hard to predict. Other than the Central State Academy, there were also 2 groups from outside the academy participating. One of the groups had Shen Fengho's daughter Feng Kaidai shining. She was definitely a dark horse level character that many people were looking forward to. There were experts like clouds in this competition. For the precious trial qualification, everyone would go all out, and it was hard to predict the final result. Chapter 152. The Central State League venue was filled with a sea of people. It was filled with people, showing just how prosperous Central State City was. The 6 platforms were built with waist-thick hardwood, and they were separated by more than 100 feet from each other. They were arranged somewhat like a 6-pointed star formation, with each of the 6 corners being an arena, and the largest arena in the center. This was obviously the arena used for the final battle. There was a sea of people all around. There were several VIP areas for the various large families, but they were still empty. There was not a single family's training ground. There was a wooden sign in front of the Central State League, and it had the rules of the competition written in gold characters the size of a fist, as well as the positions of the participants. Chu Tian's group of 6 were on the 1st to 6th stage. Unless they could last until the final battle, they would not meet each other in the same group. Feng Qingyan looked at the rules on the wooden sign, and gave a snort as he said, "I just hope your luck is good and you can last until the finals." Chu Tian did not care at all. "My luck has always been good." The crowd around them began to boil. "The Chu family is here. That's the Chu family's head Chu Xinghe, and the Heavenly Sword young master Chu Xinghe." The Chu family's lineup was not big, but it was very beautiful. They were all dressed like Chu family swordsmen, and almost all of them were elders. Any one of them was a famous person in Central State City. Approximately 50 or so Chu clan elders, together with 100 or so Chu clan attendants, were currently escorting 2 gorgeous palanquins towards the high VIP viewing platform. Luo family, Ye family and Yun family. The 3 great families are also here. Luo family's Luo Lianqing, Dragon Tiger Young Master Luo Xianglong. Ye family's Yi Wudao, Prince Tianlang Yi Tianlang. Yun family's Patriarch Yun Tianhe, and Purple Lightning Young Master Yun Yao. It really is worthy of being the Central State City's grand meeting. The legendary figures of Central State City are all here at once. The leaders of the 4 great families and the successors of the 4 great families were all here. Central State Great General Xiong Wuji has arrived. A dark-skinned general led hundreds of elite guards into the field. Everyone looked at them with awe. The Xiong clan was the #1 general clan in Central Continent. Its status was only below the Feng clan and the 4 great clans. Chu Tian's eyes lit up. It was actually him? This was the general that Chu Tian had met once in the Black Wind stronghold. Chu Tian had a good impression of him. Although he already knew that this person's position was not low, he had never imagined that he would be the #1 person in the Central Plains military. Although his clan's influence was slightly inferior to the 4 great clans, in terms of individual strength, this General Xiong Wuji was probably not much inferior to the few patriarchs. The city lord has arrived. The president has arrived. At this moment, a series of drums sounded and a magnificent guard of honor entered the scene. A man wearing a blue city lord robe flew into the air and landed on the referee's seat. Beside the city lord was a middle-aged man dressed in Confucian robes. The 2 of them looked somewhat similar, so they were most likely brothers. Central State City Lord Feng Yunlong. Central State Academy's Principal Feng Yunhu. The 2 pillars of the Central State City Feng family. One was in charge of the city lord position, and the other was in charge of the Central State Academy. At this moment, the military, political, 4 great clans, and other noble families had all arrived. The people at the top of the Central State Pyramid had all gathered here. It could be seen just how important this gathering was to Central State City. This competition was related to the Central State Trial's spots. The Central State Trial was something that the youths of Central State dreamed of participating in. The Central State Tower Trial contained a large amount of wealth and treasures, including some precious ancient cultivator inheritances. Every time the trial opened, only 10 people were allowed to enter. The 4 great clans were the elders of Central State City, and each family only had 1 spot. 6 spots would be decided in the Central State League, and even the Feng family did not have an extra spot. After all, although the Feng family had a high status, they did not have many people and they had only been stationed in Central State City for several years. Dong dong dong. The golden bell was equally famous. The audience became silent. Everyone knew in their hearts that this grand gathering was about to begin. At this time, wild winds began to blow in the sky and a vast aura descended. A long laugh came from the clouds and echoed throughout the Central State League. This year's gathering is very lively. This marquis will also join in on the fun. When everyone heard this voice, they were all shocked. The citizens all knelt down on both knees. The normal generals, magistrates, nobles, and the small and medium-sized family heads all knelt down. The 4 great family heads and 4 young masters also had to stand up to show their respect. Greetings to Shin Fengho. Greetings to Shin Fengho. Shin Fengho and Feng Yuntian were wearing simple blue robes. They stepped through the air, moving 100 meters in an instant. They landed on the referee's seat and stood in front of their 2 little brothers. Everyone, no need for formalities. This marquis is only a spectator, so how the gathering is going to be carried out will be how it is. You don't need to be affected by me. Whether it was the citizens or the nobles, they all revealed looks of excitement. Shin Fengho did not have any position, but he was the protector of Central State and one of the 8 marquises of the Southern Summer Country. Just the name Shin Fengho. His position was even higher than the city lords. The Feng family was a large family in Imperial City, and had made great contributions in the war against the spirit beasts. When Feng Yuntian's family went to the battlefield to fight, Only a few people came back alive. Feng Yuntian's military exploits were outstanding, and he was given the title of Shen Fengho. 12 years ago, he brought the rest of his family to Central State. In those fierce battles, the Feng family's true descendants had all died. Feng Yunhu and Feng Yunlong were Feng Yuntian's little brothers, but strictly speaking, they were from the other side. However, Feng Yuntian did not care about power. Not only did he support the two of them, he even wanted to give up the family head position and let their branch be the main branch. When Feng Yuntian's only daughter was found to have an innately terminated meridian, the Feng family knew it would be a waste, but they still threw in all kinds of treasures. This was the reason. It was because Feng Yuntian was the family head. He had contributed so much to the family, but he had given up all his power. How could the Feng family not treat his descendant well? At least the Feng family needed this banner. The Feng family controlled the entire Central State, but they did not have many people. However, with Shen Fengho's strength as the strongest in Central State, there were no known experts that could compare to him. Even in the entire southern summer country, there were only a few old monsters from the three great families that could suppress Shen Fengho. So it didn't matter if there were few people. Shen Fengho's reputation was enough to suppress everything. Greetings to elder brother. Please have a seat. Central State City Lord Feng Yunlong did not dare put on any airs in front of Shen Fengho. Feng Yuntian was not polite as he sat in the highest seat. Have we started? We'll start now. Feng Yunhu was the Central State Academy's principal, so he naturally had the responsibility of being the main referee. Let the competition begin. The golden bell was once again announced. The over 100 participants came to their respective arenas. Third arena, first round. Lu Run against Chu Ming. Chu Tian couldn't help being stunned for a few seconds. It couldn't be, right? What a coincidence. Not only was it his turn in the first round, his opponent was actually someone surnamed Chu. Chu Tian came out. Several large characters looked over. Yun Tianhe directly stood up. It's that brat. Chu Xinghe opened his eyes and a pair of sword-like eyes swept over him. It's him. Feng Yuntian of course also noticed Chu Tian. He looked over Chu Tian a few times. This appearance-changing technique is not bad. Even I can't see through it. It's no wonder he could fool so many people. Chu Ming was a retainer of the Chu family. The Chu family was a bit similar to the Yin family. If the Yin family was a family of scholars, then the Chu family was a family of martial artists. The Yin family wantonly recruited scholars from Central State, and the Chu family wantonly recruited talented people. The Chu family was stronger than the Yin family, so the Chu family could provide a better treatment. Of course, there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. The Chu family's treatment was better, but their conditions were also very harsh. From the consecrator to the retainer, as long as they entered the Chu family, they could only change their surname to Chu. Chu Tungguan was like this, Chu Batian was like this. The young Chu Ming was also like this. Chu Ming was a very famous young genius, but because he had caught the eye of the Chu family, he was bought out by the Chu family at a high price. He could only serve the Chu family for 10 years, and the Chu family had given him a top-grade cultivation technique to train him. He had now become a member of the Chu family. Chu Ming did not enter the Central State Academy. Of the two groups that were selected from the selections, Chu Ming was in the other group. The Chu family members revealed a satisfied look when they saw this. An elder said, Chu Ming's talent is rare even in the Chu family. That's right. Another elder nodded. He is only 20 years old and has already reached the second awakened soul layer, surpassing the normal elders and high-level deacons of the Chu family. The most terrifying thing is that his swordsmanship has reached perfection. There aren't many experts at the same level that can block Chu Ming's sword. Even you and I would find it hard to block. Nonsense, our Chu family's swordsmanship is famous throughout the southern summer country. How many people can block it? This nameless rogue cultivator will lose for sure. The Chu family members were filled with confidence. Only Chu Xinghe slightly knit his brows, looking very serious. At this time, Chu Ming pulled out a curved sword and coldly stared at Chu Tian. Admit your loss. I am a member of the Chu family. A trivial rogue cultivator going against the Chu family can only lead to death. Chu Tian did not even pull out his sword as he crossed his arms. You dare say such childish words? Not to mention you are a slave of the Chu family, so what if you are a member of the Chu family? Stop wasting time and make your move. A slave of the Chu family? These words deeply hurt Chu Ming. You're seeking death. I'll help you out. Chu Ming held the curved sword like he was skateboarding. His body did not move as he instantly charged in front of Chu Tian. The curved sword released a cold glow as it stabbed at his chest. Too fast. Chu Ming's body did not move, but it was like he teleported. A cold glow tore through the air with an extremely strong momentum. Chu Tian did not even blink as he watched the sword stab at him. Everyone cried out in surprise. Why isn't he dodging? When the sword glow was about to stab him, Chu Ming disappeared in a blur. Everyone was suddenly enlightened. Chu Ming cultivated an assassination cultivation technique. This overbearing attack was actually just an illusion, but it was very confusing, making it hard for people to distinguish the real from the fake. If Chu Tian made any movements to block or dodge, he would reveal a flaw that Chu Ming could grasp. The moment the afterimage disappeared, Chu Tian felt a cold light coming at the back of his neck. Hyperfocus. Chu Tian slightly swayed his body. The cold sword edge brushed past his skin, dodging by a hair's breadth. Chu Ming's expression changed. He suddenly stomped his feet. Once again, he disappeared in a blur. A sneer of ridicule hung on Chu Tian's face. Thick origin power condensed on his right hand, and two of his fingers gradually turned golden. Diamond vein cutting finger. He stabbed at the air in front of him. Dang. Two golden fingers caught a blade that was stabbing at him. Pa! Chu Tian suddenly exerted force. The blade broke on the spot. The violent force lost control and immediately formed a strong explosion. A transparent figure was forced out of the air and staggered back a few steps. He was seen through. This was the illusory body sword art taught by the Chu family. How could it be seen through? Chu Ming stared at the broken sword in his hand. His face was filled with anger and coldness. How is this possible? I am a genius cultivated by the Chu family. I can't do anything to a rogue cultivator. I don't believe that I can't kill you. Chu Ming once again activated his spirit energy and was about to attack again. However, he suddenly felt a piercing pain in his chest. When he looked down, he saw a snow-white broken sword had pierced into his chest. Blood gushed out uncontrollably. No. Chu Ming clutched his chest in horror. He took a few steps forward and finally fell to the ground. This is the Chu family's sword art. Chu Tian walked to Chu Ming's limp body and kicked him off the stage like a ball. What a mess. What a shocking move. It undoubtedly caused a huge uproar. The Chu family's sword art was a mess. This was like a slap on the face of those who were complacent. Moreover, the slap was so loud. The strongest swordsman family in Zhongzhou was almost the strongest swordsman family in southern Xia. He actually said that the Chu family's sword art was a mess? Wasn't this clearly smashing the reputation of the Chu family? Chu Shanhe's eyes were as cold as ice. This kid must die. Chapter 153. Chu Tian left the stage. Xiang Hu was dejected as he walked over with a depressed look on his face. He had been eliminated in the first round. This fellow was a true rogue cultivator. He had been lucky enough to be accepted as an honorary disciple by Feng Yuntian, but he was only an honorary disciple in name. With Shen Fengho's personality, how could he be in the mood to personally teach him? He would just give him a bunch of elixirs and a few cultivation techniques, letting him practice it himself. Normally he would do odd jobs in the valley, being no different from a servant. The participants were all at the second or triple awakened soul layer. Xiang Hu was brought in by Feng Kaidai to make up the numbers, so it was not strange for him to be eliminated in the first round. Chu Tian wanted to say a few words of comfort to Xiang Hu, but before he could say anything, he suddenly heard a piece of news. That mercenary named Lin Mu seems to be in trouble. He's going against Luo Jinshi in the first round. Chu Tian knit his brows. Was this fellow really that unlucky? At this moment, Lin Mu was standing on the second stage. His opponent was a large man with a strong body. Although he was only in his 20s, he had a thick beard that made him look like he was in his 30s. The large man did not carry any weapons, and was wearing ordinary clothes. His two thick arms were exposed and there were red tattoos on them. He looked like a wild warrior from a tribe. The Black Tortoise lists first-ranked Luo Jinshi. Below the Central State Luo family's dragon tiger young master Luo Xianglong. He was the most talented genius. Luo Qianshan's lion-like eyes stared at the mercenary Lin Mu in front of him. His eyes revealed a look of deep disdain. A dirty mercenary, you are not worthy of fighting me. I advise you to honestly do your job. The Central State trial is not something trash can enter. Scram. Otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. Lin Mu's cultivation was at the peak second awakened soul layer. Luo Jinshi had already reached the triple awakened soul realm. Luo Jinshi was one of the Luo family's most important heirs, so the family must have given him a lot of resources. This kind of person could not be ordinary, even if they were at the same cultivation level. Ordinary cultivators would not be his opponent. Lin Mu said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. The Ye family are also mercenaries. If you belittle mercenaries like this, aren't you pointing at the mulberry and scolding the locust? As soon as he said that, the faces of the Ye family members did not look too good either. You. Luo Jinshi's expression changed. Your mouth is quite sharp, but I hate people like you the most. Today, I'll cripple your mouth so you can never speak again. Lin Mu revealed a grave expression. I'd like to experience the Luo clan's ultimate technique. You're seeking death. As you wish. Luo Jinshi's eyes widened as he roared. His spirit energy blossomed and turned into a giant golden lion. This giant lion's body was extremely large, and its entire body looked like it was forged from gold. It gave off a powerful and imposing aura that could shock anyone. Luo Jinshi. He lived up to his name. The source spirit was a golden lion. This was a very high-level demon beast. It could hunt down mammoths and tear apart dragons. It had boundless might and was very strong. With the support of the golden lion source spirit, Luo Jinshi's strength and speed increased by several times. Combined with the Luo family's close combat cultivation technique, he could be called a human grinder. So strong. Truly worthy of being the Black Tortoise first rank. Compared to the Dragon Tiger young master, this person was only slightly inferior. Lin Mu knew how strong his opponent was, but this young mercenary was full of vigor. No matter how strong Luo Jinshi was, he was not someone that the four young masters could not fight. Since he was standing on the stage, how could he not fight? Lin Mu raised his arms high up, and a willow tree began to wildly grow, instantly growing to several meters tall. A green jade light covered the surroundings and several thousand willow branches fluttered in the wind, just like the wild hair of a demon god. Oh, a plant-type source spirit. The four great figures were all surprised. This kind of rare source spirit could be strong or weak. They didn't know how strong this mercenary was. Die. Luo Jinshi charged forward like a rampaging rhinoceros. Would rush thrust. Lin Mu slapped the ground with his palm. Luo Jinshi felt spirit energy coming from the ground, and a giant tree being pulled from the ground. He immediately dodged to the left and right like lightning. With his fast movement speed and perception, Luo Jinshi easily dodged the attack from the ground. At this moment, lock. Lin Mu's hands came together, and the countless willow branches were like the arms of a demon. They shot out like lightning and wrapped around Luo Jinshi's neck. Then they wrapped around his limbs, neck, waist, and other parts, keeping him in the air. Everyone was surprised. Lin Mu was using his source spirit to attack? The Void Soul Realm source spirit was very weak, and could only be used to support attacks. Lin Mu's source spirit was different. It could actually be used to attack. The Luo family's cultivation technique focused on close combat. In a normal situation, if one was thrown into the air, they would lose the ability to fight. Lin Mu loudly roared. A black aura was released and his skin turned black. Everyone could see with a single glance that this was a very strong demonic art. Lin Mu shot forward. Several sharp willow branches followed him, and attacked Luo Jinshi in the air at the same time. Pung pung pung. Those willow branches that were as sharp as spears were like rain that stabbed at Luo Jinshi's body. After experiencing a wild storm of attacks, Lin Mu's strength reached its peak. His right fist turned as black as ink as he punched at Luo Jinshi. Luo Jinshi's protective spirit energy had already been weakened. If it hit Luo Jinshi, this fist would be enough to heavily injure him. You only have this little bit of skill? Luo Jinshi's golden lion source spirit gave an angry roar, and a wave of spirit energy spread out, shattering the willow branches around him. Since you've seen the Luo family's cultivation technique, I'll let you see the might of my Luo family's lion-tiger duo. His right hand formed a claw that created a fierce claw wind. The claw wind gathered into the shape of a lion's head that bit through the willow tree. At the same time, it tore apart Lin Mu's demonic art, and left a large wound on Lin Mu's body, as if he had been bitten by a lion. Die. Luo Jinshi sent out another punch. The spirit energy turned into a giant tiger that leapt out. Just like a tiger leaping over a mountain, it fell down on Lin Mu's body. It directly pressed Lin Mu into the ground, firmly pressing him into the ground. It dragged him from the center of the stage to the edge of the stage, leaving behind a deep dent. During this process, Lin Mu's bones began to crack, breaking at least 10 bones. The giant tiger formed from spirit energy roared and exploded. Lin Mu suffered another heavy injury. The armor on his body shattered, and he flew off the stage like a kite with its string cut. Luo Jinshi did not show any mercy at all. He was completely intent on killing him. He was just a young mercenary with no background and no strength. So what if he was killed? What was the big deal? Who would have thought that after Lin Mu fell to the ground, he would take the initiative to stand up and release his willow tree source spirit again? Moreover, during this process his legs began to change. They were like tree roots that pierced through the ground, deeply digging into the soil. A green energy began to wash over his body. Ka. His broken bones began to return to normal. In the blink of an eye, more than half of his heavy injuries had recovered. The source spirit willow tree quickly withered. It was clear that it had suffered heavy injuries, but it was still slowly recovering. Feng Yuntian was a little surprised seeing this. This young man's source spirit's greatest use is to transfer injuries. The willow tree source spirit could absorb the injuries on Lin Mu's body. This was really rare. Yin Tianhe pondered for a few seconds before saying, I'm afraid it's not just that. His body has been partially elemental, so there should be a special bloodline in his body. His ancestors should be from the elves. This young man's potential is not small. Chu Tian could also see this. Lin Mu's bloodline was a little special. He could temporarily elemental his body. This should be an ability of the ancient races. He was a descendant of an ancient race. Although his bloodline had been diluted for a long time and was very thin, it still had a good potential. Lin Mu did not have this kind of ability in the Black Wind stronghold. It was clear that he had gradually awakened after that battle. This brat really did have a bit of potential. No wonder he had such a high cultivation base at such a young age without any background. He was someone worth roping in and training. Although Lin Mu still had battle strength, he had been knocked off the stage. According to the rules of the Great Games, he had already been eliminated. Lin Mu was clear in his heart that there was still a large gap between his current strength and Luo Jinshi's. The first round of the competition quickly ended. In Chu Tian's group, Xiang Hu and Lin Mu were eliminated, and the others smoothly entered the next round. The second round began. Chu Tian met a top 5 ranked White Tiger ranking opponent, who was only in the second awakened soul layer. He did not place this kind of person in his eyes at all. He did not even draw his sword and easily won. 5th stage. Feng Han against Yi Hen. When Chu Tian heard this news, he couldn't help breaking out in cold sweat for his 2 mercenary brothers. It was fine if Lin Mu met the Black Tortoise ranking's first-ranked Luo Jinshi. Feng Han was not spared either. He had already met the White Tiger ranking's first-ranked Yi Hen. Yi Hen and Luo Jinshi were equally famous. In terms of strength, he was not inferior at all. Feng Han and Lin Mu were very similar. They both had a rare ice-attributed source spirit, and cultivated a very strong demonic cultivation technique. Feng Han could even turn his body into ice for a short period of time. This was a characteristic of the ancient race's bloodline. Yi Hen's source spirit was even more extraordinary. From the start of the battle, he had summoned a transparent demon wolf source spirit, only revealing a pair of eyes. Those eyes were covered in gray ripples, and when they stared at the demon wolf source spirit, Everyone felt their minds blur, as if they were being hypnotized. Illusory pupil demon wolf. A very dangerous demon beast. This kind of demon beast's battle strength was not strong, but it could directly attack one's soul. It was strange and unpredictable, making it hard to defend against. Yi Hen was a rare spiritual attributed source spirit in the younger generation of Central State, which meant that he could use spiritual attacks. Invisible and formless, killing people without a trace. You couldn't directly look into his eyes. Feng Han knew how terrifying Yi Hen was. Compared to Yi Hen, he would rather fight Luo Jinshi. At least if he fought Luo Jinshi, he would be able to fight to his heart's content. But if he fought Lin Hen, his life and death would be decided in an instant. The ice giant source spirit was released. Several blurry ice mirrors surrounded him. Feng Han used the mirrors to lock onto Lin Hen's figure. Since he couldn't directly look into Lin Hen's eyes, why not use the mirrors to capture his figure? Yi Hen's battle strength was not strong, but as long as he wasn't affected by the spiritual illusion technique, he could still fight. It had to be said. Whether it was Lin Mu or Feng Han, both of them had a clear mind and were talented people in battle. However, both of them had made the same mistake. They had underestimated their opponents too much. Monster wolf transformation. Transform into my body. Yi Hen's demon wolf source spirit turned into a shadow that merged with Yi Hen's body. Man and wolf as one, spirit and body as one. This was the Ye family's inherited cultivation technique, monster wolf transformation. This cultivation technique could only be used with a wolf source spirit. Back in South Sky City, Yi Tianlang had also used this move to merge with the wolf spirit. After Yi Hen used the monster wolf transformation, his body gradually became transparent. Feng Han's ice mirrors could not find any traces of him. This made Feng Han's expression change. Several black claws came slashing down. The ice mirrors were all shattered. Yi Hen passed through the ice mirrors, and a pair of eyes filled with ripples stared at Feng Han. This is bad. The moment Feng Han met the other side's eyes, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Yi Hen took this chance to punch Feng Han, and the thick ice armor shattered. Feng Han had been heavily injured, and had fainted after falling off the stage. Feng Han. Lin Mu quickly went over to support him. Chu Tian also came over, and helped him take his pulse. His brows slightly knit as he said, "You don't need to worry about your physical injuries, but your mental injuries are not light." What happened? The moment Yi Hen looked at him, he fell into Yi Hen's illusion technique. It seems like a short moment to us, but in the illusion, it has already been over an hour. In other words, Yi Hen has been torturing Feng Han for over an hour in the illusion. If it wasn't for his firm consciousness, he would have become a madman even if he didn't die. So fierce. Yi Hen looked down at the stage, and his lips curled into a mocking smile. He turned around and left. Yi Hen Luo Jinshi. One was a spiritual attack genius. The other was a close combat genius. Not only did the two of them have a triple awakened soul strength, their talent and cultivation techniques were also top-notch. They were very strong and normal people could not resist them. Central State Academy had a Chu Wufeng. This person had not revealed his true strength yet, but it was said that he was stronger than the two of them. This match was filled with experts like clouds and no one had the confidence to win. Chapter 154. Xiang Hu, Lin Mu, and Feng Han were all eliminated. Only Chu Tian, Feng Kaidai and Feng Qingyun were left. At this time, it was Chu Tian's turn to fight. Third stage, Yin Xiao against Lu Run. What? Yin Xiao? Chu Tian was instantly speechless. Yin Xiao's eyes turned white, and he almost fainted from anger. Damn, even drinking water would get stuck between his teeth. Of all the people he could have met, he had to meet this young master. Yin Xiao did not even think as he raised his hand. I admit defeat. The surrounding audience went into an uproar. What was he doing? Yin Xiao was still one of the most popular people in the Great Games. He had just made a name for himself, and when he used the 3 Thunderblades, even the triple awakened soul might not be able to block it. The result was good. This fellow didn't even fight before admitting defeat. Bastard. You coward. I bet money that you could enter the ranking competition. Everyone was cursing at him. Yin Xiao gave a disdainful snort. What do you idiots know? Yin Tianhe shook his head when he saw this and did not blame him. Yin Xiao followed Chu Tian off the stage. Boss, I didn't hesitate to face the thousand-finger to help you hide my strength. My body and mind have been seriously injured, so you have to compensate me for my mental damage. You still have mental damage? Chu Tian gave a pei sound. Are you afraid of being scolded with this kind of face? How could you say this? I have my dignity too, okay? Yin Xiao did not even have time to speak before an eye-catching voice rang out. First stage, Feng Kaidai against Nangong Yin. Feng Kaidai against Nangong Yin? Yin Zhao's eyes lit up. Elder sisters match. We have to go see it. Boss, let's go. Feng Kaidai and Nangong Yin. The two of them were shockingly similar. They were both in the peak second awakened soul layer, and were both country-destroying beauties. Moreover, they were both around 19 years old, so this match was bound to attract the attention of countless people. Feng Kaidai had been treated as trash by the people of Central State City for a long time, but not long ago, Feng Katie's blocked meridians had suddenly improved. Her cultivation had soared and she had stepped into the second awakened soul layer. His father is Shen Fengho Feng Yintian. Everyone in Central State City knew that Feng Yintian treated his daughter like a treasure. Back then, even though he knew that Feng Kaidai had terminated meridians, he still didn't hesitate to use large amounts of elixirs on her. He didn't even hesitate to harm his own cultivation to increase Feng Katie's cultivation. In terms of passing down cultivation methods, he was even more dedicated. After Feng Katie's physique was healed, she immediately awakened her blue Luan source spirit. She had been practicing all kinds of top-grade cultivation techniques for more than 10 years, so her strength had increased by leaps and bounds. In yesterday's qualifiers, she had shined brightly, sweeping away countless participants. Although she had not reached triple awakened soul, she had the ability to fight against Luo Jinshi and the other experts. Therefore, Feng Kaidai was also a contestant with great potential. People didn't know much about Nangong Yin. They only knew that she was the top ranker of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard, and was the strongest new student in the history of Central State Academy. She had once stood still and blocked Yin Zhao's Thunder Three Blades. Just this strength alone was enough to make people unable to look down on her. The most eye-catching thing was, Nangong Yin's source spirit was the Fire Phoenix, which was worthy of being called a god-level source spirit. In terms of source spirit strength, Nangong Yin was stronger than anyone else in Central State City. She also came from one of the three great families of the kingdom, the Nangong family. The cultivation technique she practiced, burning the heaven art, was one of the strongest cultivation techniques in southern Xia. Because of this, no one dared to look down on Nangong Yin. This was a fight that people were looking forward to. The two of them jumped onto the stage. Nangong Yin was wearing a red robe with shorts and a short shirt. She was wearing a bold and sexy outfit, revealing a pair of jade-like long legs. Her arms were slender and white, just like a pure white lotus root. Her chest was high up, but it couldn't compare to the young miss, but it was full and firm, with a deep gap visible. Her beautiful fiery red hair was tied into a ponytail, with a few strands of hair floating around her cheeks. Her whole body gave people the feeling of a raging flame, beautiful and filled with wildness. Feng Kaidai was wearing a luxurious palace robe. Her body was tightly wrapped. The entire robe was woven from jade, making her look as noble and beautiful as a princess. Her long pitch-black hair was like a waterfall that draped over her shoulders, almost reaching her waist. However, it was neat and tidy without a trace of disorder. Her beautiful face carried a smile that was neither cold nor hot, gentle and calm. She was a high and mighty, yet amiable and approachable princess. Too beautiful. This was definitely a visual impact. Two peak beauties and two peak experts. Feng Kaidai knew how strong Nangong Yin was, so she did not dare to be careless. Her right hand gently pressed against her waist, and a clear light shining treasure sword was slowly pulled out. The moment the sword was unsheathed, the originally calm and tranquil stage was suddenly blown up by a series of rapid gales. Famed sword. Divine Wind. Is this Shen Fengho's Divine Wind sword? This is a peak-level top-quality soul weapon. It's already half a step into spirit linking. The four great families and the mayor's dean were all shocked. This was the sword that Shen Fengho and Feng Yuntian used when they were young. It had a great reputation in southern Xia, having killed several spirit beast chiefs. Shen Fengho had even given his own sword to his daughter. Chu Tian stared at the divine wind sword and his heart was secretly shocked. In terms of quality, the Netherworld sword was a soul-contracting weapon. It was a bit higher than the divine wind sword. However, the Netherworld sword had been sealed for too long, so it was very weak. Even after absorbing the elemental energy, it was still far from being restored to its peak, so it did not have its original might. This divine wind sword's might was not inferior to the current Netherworld sword. When Feng Kaidai was still in the body refinement realm, she only had a high-grade spirit weapon, the Autumn Water Sword. It wasn't that Shen Fengho did not want to give her a better weapon, but with Feng Katie's strength at that time, even if she had a better weapon, she would not be able to display its full power. Now that he had given her the top-grade divine wind sword, it was clear that he had high hopes for Feng Kaidai. Shen Fengho hoped that his daughter would inherit his legacy. Damn. This girl is clearly being shameless. Yun Xiao couldn't help shouting. What kind of skill is this treasure sword? If you have the guts, then fight our elder sister fairly. Stupid. Chu Tian directly knocked Yun Zhao's head. Equipment is a part of strength. If you say it like this, then if I use the Netherworld sword to fight you, wouldn't that be taking advantage of you? Feng Kaidai held the shining treasure sword in her hand and respectfully cupped her fists at Nangong Yun. Young Miss Nangong, please. Nangong Yun curled her lips and said with a face filled with mischief. It's better if you go first. I'm afraid of being too heavy-handed and injuring Shen Fengho's precious daughter. Feng Kaidai had a good temper and revealed a faint smile. She was not angry at all. Then I'll go first. Young Miss Nangong, be careful. A clear cry rang out. The 9 heavens shook. The blue one appeared and wild winds rose. The great competition was covered in a strong pressure. The blue one was a wind-attributed sacred beast, so Feng Katie's attribute was wind. This was clearly inherited from Shen Fengho. Because it was a bird-type source spirit, it gave Feng Kaidai the ability to fly. Her body gently jumped up and immediately soared into the sky, merging with the blue wand. The divine wind sword danced a few times. The blue sword glow continued to interweave, condensing together like a storm. The sword cry rang out, looking very beautiful and shocking. This is the Wind and Cloud Sword song. It's Shen Fengho's unique skill. The Chu family all use swords. When they saw this strange sword art, they couldn't help holding their breaths. Even Chu Xinghe knit his brows. This sword art was clearly special. Flashy but impractical. Nangong Yin was not panicked at all. She was filled with confidence. When she saw that Feng Kaidai had finished preparing, she finally made her move. Fire-red spirit energy soared into the sky. It was like a burst of flames. With a clear phoenix cry, the fire-red spirit energy filled the air. Most of the stage was covered in a red glow. Even the clouds were dyed red. Such terrifying spirit energy. Nangong Yun's spirit energy is at least 3 times denser than a normal person's. This is the strong amplification effect of the Fire Phoenix's spirit. The 4 great families all had serious expressions. Feng Yuntian also revealed an interested expression. Feng Katie's cultivation was around the same as Nangong Yun's, but in terms of spirit energy quantity and density, Feng Kaidai was inferior to Nangong Yi. After all, the blue wand could not compare to the Fire Phoenix. The blue wand's spirit energy amplification effect was not large. The blue wand released a blue glow, instantly dissipating over half a year. The ancient divine beast's pressure followed. Even a sacred beast like the blue wand, facing the Fire Phoenix, couldn't help paling. Feng Katie's blue wand source spirit was not inferior to Chu Xinghe's golden flood dragon sword. The Fire Phoenix source spirit was a level higher. Although a source spirit did not represent one's strength, a source spirit had a direct influence on one's strength. Since Nangong Yin had such a strong source spirit, even if she was lacking in other aspects, she still wouldn't be weak. A blue wand and a Fire Phoenix, each standing in the air facing each other. Feng Kaidai had taken the initiative. She had already formed a strong momentum. She also had a top-quality soul weapon, so she still had the advantage. Take a punch from me first. Nangong Yun's red hair fluttered in the wind. Her right fist sent out a fierce fist wind that was like a giant hammer. It fiercely slammed into Feng Katie's surroundings, instantly dispersing a small part of the spirit energy Feng Kaidai had gathered. The entire stage began to shake. Feng Katie's body trembled. She had indeed underestimated Nangong Yun's destructive power. If Nangong Yun closed in on her, Feng Kaidai would not have any chance of winning. 9 Heavens Wind God. Lend me your astral winds, the might of the heavens, lead with my sword. The divine wind sword led. The cyan spirit energy turned into dozens of sword chi. The dozens of cyan sword chi did not disperse. They were like dozens of glowing cyan curved blades that revolved around Feng Katie's body. They were currently revolving at a high speed that was hard to see with the naked eye, letting out a sharp cry. Was this the legendary wind and cloud sword song? Even the Chu family, who considered themselves to be a sword cultivator family, were shocked. They had never seen this kind of sword art before. It was actually able to produce dozens of sword chi at the same time. Furthermore, the sword chi was condensed and did not disperse. They revolved around one's body, and when it was time to kill the enemy, they would be released in one breath. It could defend one's body and also kill the enemy. This was truly an exquisite sword art. Feng Kaidai had underestimated Nangong Yun. But Nangong Yun was too careless. She should not have let Feng Kaidai make the first move. This wind and cloud sword song was already very powerful. Moreover, Feng Kaidai was borrowing the power of the divine wind sword to release sword chi. Would Nangong Yun be able to withstand such an overwhelming attack? Everyone was sweating for Nangong Yun. Nangong Yun's eyes were filled with determination. She did not slow down at all. Like an arrow, she charged straight into Feng Katie's sword chi. A layer of crystal like starlight condensed around her body. She savagely slammed into the sword chi. The crystal like starlight began to crack, but it could not break through her defense. Isn't this Brother Lu's defensive cultivation technique? Feng Kaidai found that the defensive cultivation technique Nangong Yun used was the same as Lu Ren's. This Nangong Yun and Lu Ren must have some relationship. Otherwise, how could they practice the same cultivation technique? This defensive cultivation technique was too strong. Lu Ren could kill an awakened soul cultivator with his 9th body refinement layer cultivation. It was all because of this strong defensive cultivation technique. Feng Kaidai was worried that the wind and cloud sword song was too strong and would accidentally harm Nangong Yun's life. But now she no longer had this worry. Go all out. The blue sword chi crisscrossed. It was like a storm as it charged forward. Nangong Yun's wild spirit energy surged forward. Like a raging flame, it suddenly surrounded her body. Heaven-burning fist. The two wild energies collided in the air. Nangong Yun used her fist to shatter most of the sword chi. Everyone was stunned seeing this. This girl was too violent. She actually used her flesh and blood body to block the divine wind sword chi. This brute force made people's hairs stand on end. If a triple awakened soul cultivator was hit by this, they would not be able to stand up. Only, there was too much sword chi. The angle of attack was different. Nangong Yun shattered apart, but the rest still fell on Nangong Yun's body, making Nangong Yun's flying speed decrease. There were more and more cracks on the Starlight immortal body, and the Starlight's repair speed could not keep up with the damage. Feng Kaidai was very cunning. She kept retreating while fighting. Wind-attributed cultivators were very fast. It was not easy for Nangong Yun to catch up to her. Not to mention that the wind and cloud sword song was continuously attacking her and her speed was decreasing. Everyone could see it. Nangong Yun was good at both offense and defense, and she was very violent. Once they fought in close combat, Feng Kaidai would not be able to last more than a few rounds. Feng Katie's advantage was her speed. With the powerful divine wind sword and the powerful sword art, she could make up for the difference in attack power. Now it seemed like Feng Katie's speed was a lot faster than Nangong Yun's, and adding in the wind and cloud sword song's advantage was its continuous suppression. With the limited space on the stage, no matter where Nangong Yun was, she would always be in Feng Katie's attack range. She would not have a chance to catch her breath. It was impossible for Nangong Yin to catch up to Feng Kaidai under this pressure. Feng Kaidi's strategy was very clear. She was kiting her opponent. Nangong Yin had a wild strength, but she could not use it. She was completely suppressed. The starlight immortal body is about to break. Chu Tian knit his brows and said, Nangong Yin will lose. Ah. Then what do we do? Yin Xiao anxiously scratched his head. There was no need to doubt Chu Tian's eyes, and now even Chu Tian felt that Nangong Yin would lose. This fierce elder sister was most likely done for. Feng Qingyan gave a snort. His eyes flashed with a cold light. The people from the 4 great families were all whispering to each other. Feng Kaidi's potential was very strong, and before long, the Central State 4 young masters would become the Central State 5 young masters. The mayor revealed a strange expression and said to Feng Yuntian with a smile, Elder brother, Kaidi's progress is very gratifying. Only he knew what he was thinking in his heart. Feng Yuntian's face was also filled with a smile. This was all because of that brat's efforts. Now everyone thought that Nangong Yin's defeat was only a matter of time. Nangong Yin was also very annoyed. Damn, he never thought that this stinky girl would be so hard to deal with. If he knew this earlier, he would have charged forward and punched her in the face. Now she was running as fast as a ghost. Could he catch her? If it was in the natural environment, Nangong Yin would have retreated from her attack range and repaired the starlight immortal body. Then he would have chased after her and used his spirit energy to exhaust his opponent. But the arena space was very limited and the Windsource spirit's attack range was very far, so there was no place to hide. He was still in Feng Kaidi's attack range, and could be said to be under intense attacks every second. The starlight immortal body's repair speed could not keep up with the damage. Was she really going to lose? The boss was watching from below. If she lost, she would lose too much face. Nangong Yin was a very competitive person. She had arrogantly said that she would beat the boss, but if she lost in the competition, she would be too unwilling and too useless. But against Feng Kaidai, there was nothing she could do. No. She wasn't at the end of the line. There was one move that she couldn't use, although she had not truly grasped it yet. Chapter 155. Nangong Yin was completely suppressed by the wind and cloud sword song. So everyone thought that Feng Kaidai would be the winner. Nangong Yin was not willing to admit defeat. It was not time to lose yet. When she left South Sky City for Central State City, Chu Tian had given her a cultivation technique, the Great Nirvana Scripture. At that time, Nangong Yin thought that this Great Nirvana Scripture was a powerful cultivation technique like the Starlight Immortal Body. When Nangong Yin calmed her heart and carefully studied the Great Nirvana Scripture, she found that she was wrong. This Great Nirvana Scripture was an ancient cultivation technique. It was even stronger than the Starlight Immortal Body. But it was also 10 times more complicated than the Starlight Immortal Body. The materials needed to cultivate it were unheard of. It was a cultivation technique that could not be learned quickly. When Chu Tian gave her the Great Nirvana Scripture, he did not expect Nangong Yin to learn it. Chu Tian did not bring back many top-level cultivation techniques from the future, like the Starlight Immortal Body. It seemed very powerful, but in Chu Tian's eyes, it was just a body-tempering cultivation technique. It was only suitable for the early to mid-stages, but a cultivation technique like the Great Nirvana Scripture could be practiced continuously. Chu Tian had several of these cultivation techniques in his hands, but because it was too hard to practice, the requirements were too high, and the materials needed were too hard to find, it was basically impossible to practice at this stage. The reason why Chu Tian gave the Great Nirvana Scripture to Nangong Yin was because he hoped that Nangong Yin could understand this profound cultivation technique as soon as possible. It would help her practice the burning the heaven art of the Nangong family. Nangong Yin gave a loud roar and punched out, shattering several sword chi. Feng Kaidi's divine wind sword moved. 7-8 sword chi intertwined, trapping Nangong Yin in a cage. Then this cage contracted and under the fierce pressure, pung, like glass shattering, the Starlight Immortal Body's light exploded, turning into countless specks of light. Broken. It was finally broken. This strong defensive cultivation technique had finally been broken by Feng Kaidai. Feng Katie's attack frequency was too high. It was basically a continuous attack. Even with the Starlight Immortal Body's defense, it couldn't block it. From this moment on, the outcome was already decided. Feng Kaidai had used up 60 to 70% of her spirit energy, while Nangong Yun had only used up less than 30%. Feng Kaidai had used up even more spirit energy in exchange for an excellent opportunity to win. Stop fighting. You'll get hurt. Feng Kaidai knew that Nangong Yi was related to Lu Ren, and now that her defense had been broken, Feng Kaidai did not want to hurt Nangong Yi. Cut it out. I won't surrender. How could Nangong Yin admit defeat? She condensed an enormous amount of elemental energy and prepared to launch an all-out counterattack. Feng Kaidai had no other choice seeing this because she could not afford to hesitate at all. Otherwise, if Nangong Yin used the Starlight Immortal Body again, her remaining spirit energy would not be enough to fight another battle of attrition. He waved the Divine Wind Sword. The sword chi wandering around his body were like soldiers who had received orders. All of them began to move, at the same time enveloping Nangong Yun. Even if Nangong Yun's strength was strong, it was impossible for her to destroy all the sword chi attacks at once. Victory or defeat would be decided in an instant. At this critical moment, Nangong Yun suddenly gave a delicate shout. The entire Phantom Fire Phoenix was like a ball of gasoline that had met a flame. It began to burn. The flame was actually a golden red, filled with a holy aura. What is going on? Shin Fengho, the mayor, the 4 family heads, and the others all stood up in surprise. Their eyes were filled with shock. This was not the Nangong family's burning the heaven art. Nangong Yin could no longer be seen, but a golden fire phoenix appeared in the air. The blue sword chi fell onto the fire phoenix, but not only did it not destroy the fire phoenix, it actually strengthened the fire phoenix. The wind helped the fire grow. The fire phoenix let out a long cry and charged at Feng Kaidai at a speed several times faster than before. Feng Kaidai was completely stunned facing this burning energy. She never would have thought that Nangong Yun, who was already at the end of her tether, would actually release such a strong counterattack. Nangong Yun's burning figure rushed out from the fire phoenix and punched at Feng Kaidai. The fist did not even reach her. The berserk energy directly tore apart her protective spirit energy. Feng Kaidai gave a muffled groan and spat out a mouthful of blood, falling out of the stage. Lost. In the end, Feng Kaidai still lost. Nangong Yun slowly landed on the ground, standing in the center of the stage. Her face was as white as paper. That attack had used up too much of her strength, making her unable to stand stably. Feng Kaidai slowly stood up. Her clothes were already burnt, making her look very miserable. But she knew that Nangong Yun had shown mercy at the end, so she did not suffer any injuries. She picked up the Divine Wind Sword and sheathed it at her waist. She cupped her hands towards Nangong Yun. Young Miss Nangong's skill is higher. Kaidai admits defeat. Consider yourself lucky. Nangong Yun had an ungrateful look. This old lady doesn't have enough spirit energy, otherwise with this punch, you wouldn't be able to get out of bed for half a year. This fellow really liked to show off. The mayor gave a sigh. It's a pity, it's a pity. Kaidai was too careless. Otherwise with her strength, she could have easily won the championship. Ha ha ha, loss is a loss. Kaidai really can't beat the Nangong family's little girl. Shin Fengho gave 2 generous laughs. As for winning the championship, is that even possible? Even if she doesn't lose to the Nangong family's little girl, she still isn't your son's opponent. It's all the same, it's all the same. The mayor's eyes flashed a few times, but he smiled without saying a word. This competition was actually something he had deliberately arranged. The champion would not be Luo Jinshi, Yi Hen, Chu Wufeng, or even Nangong Yun. It would be a person that no one could think of. Boss, how is it? I'm very strong, right? Nangong Yun jumped off the stage, her face filled with excitement as she walked in front of Chu Tian. I feel like defeating you right now is an easy matter. Boss, don't blame me for not giving you face. I'll go easy on you. Chu Tian looked at her with disdain. You accidentally touched the surface of the great Nirvana scripture, and coincidentally combined it with the Nangong family's burning the heavens art. Being able to use it was pure luck. Yet you dare say you can beat me with just this little bit of skill? Nan Gongyan snorted and said, "We'll know once we try it in the finals." This was truly a wonderful battle. However, after Feng Kaidai and Nan Gongyan's battle ended, there was no other good battle. The 6 stages all had their own champions. The 6 of them were Chu Wufeng, Luo Jinshi, Yi Hen, Nan Gongyan, Lu Ren, and Feng Qingyun. There was no need to doubt the strength of the first 4. As for Feng Qingyun and Chu Tian, they did not have a single good battle. Chu Tian did not even take out his sword as he fought his way to the end. Feng Qingyun had also easily defeated all of his opponents, making it hard for people to see his depths. The first place would be decided among these 6 people. The qualifiers are over. The qualifiers will begin. We asked the top 6 to step onto the main stage. Under everyone's gazes, the 6 champions walked onto the main stage and began the most important qualifiers. According to the rules of the Great Games, the top 6 would have the qualifications to enter the Central State Trial. These 6 people were not necessarily the top 6 of the Great Games. The Great Games would be divided into the qualifiers, ranking, and challenge rounds. The qualifiers had already ended and the 6 champions had been chosen. Next was the ranking round. The 6 people would first have a large battle, and the judges would rank them according to their performance. Once the rankings were out, it would be time for the challenge rounds. If anyone else was not satisfied with the rankings, they could challenge anyone. As long as they could defeat anyone, they would be able to enter the top 6. It had always been 2 people fighting. It was finally time for the strongest battle. The ranking round was a 6-person battle. Anyone who was knocked off the stage or beaten until they could no longer fight would be eliminated. They would then be ranked according to their performance. On the stage, the 6 people were already in position. Chu Wufeng was a skinny youth. He wore the uniform of the Chu clan and carried a sword on his back. His appearance was rather mediocre, but his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, like a sharp sword that revealed its brilliance. Luo Jinshi was tall and sturdy with a rough face, just like a lion. He stood on the stage and a dignified aura filled the air, just like a lion standing on the prairie. Yi Hen had a medium build and his aura was restrained. His eyes were cold, giving off a sinister and strange feeling. He was just like a dangerous and deadly demon wolf hiding in the depths of the forest. The 3 of them appeared on stage. Everyone was stunned. These 3 were the most popular super geniuses in Central State Academy. Almost 80 to 90% of the people thought that the champion of the Great Games would be one of these 3. Of the other 3, Nan Gongyan was the most eye-catching. Only after Feng Kaidai's intense battle, it was unknown if Nan Gongyan had fully recovered. As for Feng Qingyun and Lu Ren, everyone shook their heads. Feng Qingyun was surnamed Feng, so he should be like Feng Kaidai, a member of the Central State City Feng family. Only Feng Qingyun was an unknown person, so he did not seem like a strong person. That fellow named Lu Ren? This name meant that he was destined to be a passerby. Although he had a bit of skill, his performance was average. Being able to enter the final stage was probably just pure luck. Even if Feng Qingyun was not famous, he still had an illustrious family background. Lu Ren was just a rogue cultivator, so what kind of skill could he have? The only thing that confused everyone was, why did Yun Xiao, who had a lot of potential, take the initiative to surrender to Lu Ren? But no matter what, no one thought highly of this person. The Great Games had not yet begun. The 6 of them began to look at each other. Chu Wufeng coldly looked at Chu Tian. You have a lot of potential, you shouldn't have offended the Chu family. I'll give you one last chance. Give up on the competition and rely on the Chu family. You'll work for the Chu family and I'll ask the family head for leniency for you, allowing you to live. The Chu family has enough people. They won't care about one more servant. At this time, Luo Jinshi suddenly said, how about you rely on the Luo family? I'll personally guide you in your cultivation. What do you think? Yi Hen gave a cold snort and an invisible spiritual fluctuation was released. Other than working for the Ye family, you have no other choice. Otherwise, I will not let you leave this stage alive. Normal people did not know who Chu Tian was. The people from these large families had already investigated him. Although they did not know Chu Tian's true identity, he had blocked Chu Xinghe's sword and did not die, so this matter was very easy to investigate. There were even people who knew that he had a relationship with Qilin Hall. This person was worth roping in. Ha 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 ha. Nangong couldn't help laughing. You really are popular. You make me feel jealous. There's no other way. For an outstanding and handsome person like me, I can't hide it no matter how hard I try. Chu Tian was still talking cheerfully. The three young masters were all enraged. This damn fellow, he actually did not place the words of the three of them in his eyes. At this time, dang, a loud and long bell suddenly echoed in the sky. The finals had officially begun. Chapter 156. The finals began. Chu Wufeng, Luo Jinshi, and Yi Hen, the three super geniuses, all placed their attention on Chu Tian. This unknown youth not only dared to provoke the entire Chu family, he didn't even give the three of them any face. Such an arrogant rogue cultivator. How could they tolerate him? Let's kill this hindrance first. Chu Wufeng first proposed. Then we'll compare who's better and who's worse? Luo Jinshi said. That's exactly what I want. Yi Hen coldly said. A trivial rogue cultivator dares to look down on the three great families? Pay the price for your stupidity today. There are always some people in this world that you can't afford to offend. According to your thoughts, if you invite me to be a servant in your family, should I be overwhelmed by this favor and cry tears of gratitude? Chu Tian revealed a helpless expression. Your brain circuits are really different from the others. It would be easy for any one of us to kill you. We'll let you keep your life and let you be a dog in the family. This is also a great gift to you. Luo Jinshi loudly roared. Don't waste time. Since you don't want face, kill him. When the three of them were about to make a move. Ha 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 ha. At this time, a wild laugh rang out. Other than Chu Tian, the youngest youth on the stage slowly walked out. Yi Hen coldly said. Do you think this is funny? I just don't understand you three pieces of trash. What qualifications do you have to be this wild? In front of countless surprised gazes, Feng Qingyun proudly walked to the center of the stage. In front of everyone, he said a shocking sentence. You think you're invincible in Central State City with just this little bit of skill? You're just a few frogs in a well. At this moment, Feng Qingyun seemed like a different person. His eyes were filled with rebelliousness and his body was filled with a demonic arrogance. His blue robe moved without any wind, and if one looked carefully, they would find that there were countless small tornadoes forming around Feng Qingyun. Luo Jinshi angrily said. What did you say? Feng Qingyun slowly floated up, and an invisible strength supported his body. I said. You're all pieces of trash that only know how to bark like dogs. The faces of the three geniuses became incomparably ugly. The faces of the people from the three great clans also became very gloomy. Apart from the four great young masters, who else would look down on them? They were the super geniuses of the Middle States' younger generation, second only to the four young masters. Now, a fellow whom they had never even heard of actually dared to spout such arrogant words, and viewed them as trash. How could they tolerate such an insult? Nangong was also surprised. The aura released by Feng Qingyun was becoming stronger and stronger, making it hard for her to see through him. Although this fellow was extremely arrogant, there was one thing that could not be denied. He was much stronger than she had imagined. Feng Kaidai sighed. He seemed to be helpless as well. Listening to these three pieces of trash barking is really too noisy. I've had enough. Feng Qingyun gave a wild laugh. Don't waste time. This young master will give you a chance. The three of you can come at me together. Everyone was shocked. He was arrogant enough to humiliate the three geniuses for no reason. And he was even arrogant enough to challenge all three geniuses at the same time. She was the person with the highest hopes of becoming the champion in this competition. The Chu family, the Luo family, and the Ye family all had dark expressions on their faces. Feng Qingyun was the mayor's son, and daring to act so arrogantly on the stage, he must have obtained the mayor's permission or even the mayor's permission. No wonder the principal had given out the quota. This was prepared for their Feng family. Feng Kaidai had been defeated by Nangong, so Feng Qingyun could at least obtain a quota. What no one could have imagined was that the Feng family was not satisfied with obtaining a quota. They even wanted their own secret genius to step over the geniuses of the other 3 families. Mayor Feng Yunlong was very satisfied with this result. His son should be like this. The people of Central State only knew of the 4 young masters, but the Feng family was the most powerful family, but they could not send out a single person to compete with the 4 young masters. Where would the mayor put his face? Feng Qingyun's powerful appearance was to step over the geniuses of the other 3 families. After this battle, everyone would understand that the Feng family had a genius that was not inferior to the 4 young masters, or even surpassed the 4 young masters. This was Feng Yunlong's son. Shameless boasting. The 3 geniuses could not take it anymore. Chu Wufeng took the initiative to attack. With a kung sound, his treasured sword flew into the sky. A vast and sharp sword aura filled the air. Chu Wufeng held the glowing treasured sword in the air, and his spirit energy condensed into a purple sword source spirit. That surging energy flowed into the treasured sword like a river. Soul Sword Secret Art. Heaven-cutting art. A terrifying sword aura that seemed like it could split the heavens and earth was condensed to its peak in a short period of time. Soul, sword, and person, the 3 seemed to fuse into one. You dare boast shamelessly? Then feel the anger of the Chu family's sword. When Chu Wufeng released his sword qi, it was like the air itself was being torn apart by his sword. A deep sword mark appeared on the arena, as if it was being cut apart like a piece of paper. That destructive sword qi instantly arrived in front of Feng Qingyun. Heaven-cutting art. The strongest move of the Soul Sword Secret Art. When Chu Tian met Chu Xinghe in the city, Chu Xinghe had used this move to deal with him. Even if they were in the same realm, Chu Tian was almost unable to block it. This was the first time since Chu Tian came to this world that he had suffered a loss against someone in the same realm. The might of this move could be seen from this. Chu Wufeng's attainments in the Soul Sword Secret Art of the Chu family were much lower than Chu Xinghe's, but he had still reached the large success realm. This slash was filled with charm, and there were not many triple awakened soul experts that could block it. While everyone was thinking about how Feng Qingyun would block it, Puchi, Feng Qingyun's body was cut in half by the sword qi. Everyone's eyes popped out. Feng Qingyun was so arrogant, but he couldn't even block a single slash? While everyone was confused, the 2 halves of Feng Qingyun's body suddenly became blurry. Like a gust of wind, it was blown away without a trace. Countless strands of blue energy appeared in the air, and once again gathered into Feng Qingyun's appearance. What is going on? It actually didn't hit. Every spectator was dumbfounded. Even the people from the 4 great clans were shocked. Chu Xinghe's eyes slightly narrowed and he coldly said, "His source spirit is wind, so he should have obtained some kind of wind inheritance. The cultivation technique he practices is different from the Feng family's." That's right. Feng Qingyun's source spirit was wind. Pure wind. There were many types of source spirits, and one of them was a pure elemental source spirit. It did not have any form, and was just a pure energy. This kind of source spirit was very rare, and had both advantages and disadvantages. In most cases, the advantages outweighed the disadvantages. It wasn't like there was no precedent for an elemental source spirit. The purple lightning young master Yunyao's source spirit was thunder, but it was pure thunder and lightning. It did not have any form, so Yunyao also had an elemental source spirit. Feng Qingyun was the same as Yunyao, only his attribute was wind. Not only did Feng Qingyun have a pure wind source spirit, he also seemed to have obtained some kind of ancient inheritance. The cultivation technique he practiced allowed his body to become invisible like the wind, allowing him to ignore all attacks. This was a very high-grade cultivation technique. Not only did he have a source spirit that was not inferior to the 4 young masters, he was also someone who had obtained an ancient inheritance after Chu Xinghe. He had the strength and potential to stand shoulder to shoulder with the 4 young masters. Even if they were at the same level, it would be hard for Chu Wufeng and the others to fight against Feng Qingyun. Luo Jinshi said to Yi Hen, "Use a spiritual attack to deal with him." Yi Hen's eyes began to ripple and then he knit his brows. This won't do. He looks like he's not moving, but he's actually drifting. I can't lock onto him at all. What's wrong? You three barking mad dogs only have this little ability? Feng Qingyun stood in the air with a high and mighty appearance. His voice drifted in the air, as unfathomable as the wind. Young Miss Nangong, I can already see that you are stronger than any of these three wastes. You are the only one here that has the qualifications to be my opponent. Feng Qingyun's body became blurry, just like a drop of ink falling into water. When he said this, his eyes fell onto Chu Tian's body. As for you, a piece of trash like you, I disdain to make a move. Cripple your own cultivation. Scram. A strange cultivation technique. A powerful innate talent. Feng Qingyun was not a normal kind of wild. He had already become the ruler of the great games. Feng Qingyun enjoyed this kind of feeling. He had displayed an undefeatable strength, so this piece of trash should have some self-awareness. He could cripple his own cultivation and scram. Or he could die. Chu Tian softly said. What if I don't do it? Then I'll personally send you on your way. Feng Qingyun's figure flickered a few times, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. It was like he was constantly teleporting as he charged at Chu Tian. Chu Tian's right hand slowly reached behind his back and grabbed the netherworld sword's hilt. The cold as ice sword was slowly pulled out. Why are there so many idiots in this world that think they're infallible? A wild aura was released from Chu Tian's body. When the long sword that was as cold as 10,000-year-old ice was pulled out, a black ancient sword source spirit appeared behind him. This source spirit was something that Central State had never seen before, but the aura it gave off was hard to imagine. It was filled with an endless destructive power, as if it came from the hands of a demon god. A purple sword glow tore through the air. Chu Tian did not care about the flickering Feng Qingyun as he thrust his sword at the air in front of him. That powerful sword intent was released along with the sword chi, creating a crack in the ground. A green figure was struck out from the void. Impossible. Feng Qingyun looked at his chest in disbelief. There was a wound that was still bleeding. You can see through my movements. Why? At this moment, Feng Qingyun felt an invisible strength constantly scanning his body. His pupils suddenly shrank. It's the mind's eye. You've opened the mind's eye. That's right. The moment Chu Tian swung his sword, he had already opened the mind's eye. This fellow's cultivation technique was not as terrifying as most people thought it was. Feng Qingyun's body was not elemental. He was just hiding his body and creating a realistic illusion to mislead others. This was a bit similar to the Chu Ming he met at the beginning. But Feng Qingyun did not just have a strong hiding ability. He also had a very strange movement technique. Even Chu Tian would find it hard to see through this movement technique. Feng Qingyun could change his position 5-6 in an instant. Chu Wufeng could not hit him at all. He could only hit an afterimage of the wind. This cultivation technique had its merits. It was an ancient cultivation technique that was not weaker than the Netherworld Flame Sword. If his cultivation was a bit higher, his speed was a bit faster, or his cultivation technique was a bit deeper, then even if Chu Tian used the mind's eye, it would be hard for him to see through it. But Feng Qingyun was still too young. His cultivation was only at the triple awakened soul realm. What's wrong? Are you surprised? When you're mocking others for being frogs at the bottom of a well, why don't you think that you're also a frog at the bottom of a well? These words were like a loud slap to Feng Qingyun's face. Even in his dreams, Feng Qingyun never would have thought that the fellow he looked down on the most would be able to break the movement technique he was so proud of. Mayor Feng Yunlong's face also turned dark. This matter had completely surpassed his expectations. Where did this brat come from? He was clearly only at the second awakened soul layer. Chu Tian's blade began to burn with blue and white flames. He looked at Nangong Yin beside him. Just watch the show. I'll take care of these 4 pieces of trash. The entire great assembly fell into a deathly silence. Feng Qingyun was crazy enough to say he wanted to fight 3 of them alone. This unknown youth was even more arrogant. Other than Chu Wufeng's group of 3, he wanted to take care of Feng Qingyun as well. What kind of situation was this? Why was this development so unexpected? How was this a competition? This was simply a test of everyone's hearts. The competition had already surpassed everyone's expectations. Chapter 157. The three family heads all stood up. Damn. Who was this bastard? What right did he have to be this arrogant? The Feng family had been in Central State City for over 10 years, but they had not raised a single genius. This time, they finally managed to make a name for themselves. Although they had lost face for the three great families, they still owed them a favor. What did this young man count for? He was just a trivial rogue cultivator. Not to mention that it was impossible for him to have this kind of strength, even if he did, suppressing the three great families in front of everyone and trampling on their dignity. Wasn't this just seeking death? Of course, the angriest person right now was the Central State City Mayor Feng Yunlong. The mayor had spent a lot of effort to make his son Feng Qingyan shine. He had even used his little brother's position as the Central State Academy's principal to forcefully change the rules of the competition. This Feng Qingyan had been sent out to cultivate at the age of 10, and obtained an ancient wind-attributed cultivation technique at the age of 15. He was only 17 this year, and already had a triple awakened soul cultivation base. To have this kind of achievement at this age, even in Imperial City, he was considered a great genius. Feng Qingyan had the chance to break through to the fourth awakened soul layer before the age of 20, and become a strong illustrious soul realm expert. At that time, other than Chu Xinghe, there was no one in Central State that could compare to Feng Qingyan. This competition was the stage that the mayor had set for Feng Qingyan. What was the current situation? A rogue cultivator had appeared out of nowhere. Not only was he around the same age as Feng Qingyan, he had suppressed Feng Qingyan's aura with a lower cultivation base. He had a strong source spirit. He had opened the mind's eye that cultivators yearned for. His sword art was not inferior to the Chu family's swordsman. It had a very strong attack power. The shock that he gave everyone when he made a move was even above Feng Qingyan's. Feng Qingyan's limelight had been completely stolen. How could the mayor not be angry? Yin Tianhe's heart was also secretly shocked. He really was worthy of being able to change his grandson Yin Zhao's body in just 3 days. His sword source spirit's aura was very strong. It contained an ancient aura that was not inferior to Nangong Yun's god-level source spirit. It was an innate attack type. Just with this source spirit, Chu Tian's battle strength had increased by several times. Therefore, it was not strange for him to be able to instantly kill experts of the same level, and even possess the ability to challenge those of a higher level. Chu Tian had also unlocked the mind's eye that cultivators yearned for even in their dreams. He was able to see through his opponent's cultivation technique and power, thus allowing him to predict his opponent's movements and easily obtain victory. What a miraculous young man! Feng Qingyan's face was as dark as water, and a dense killing intent was released from his body, causing the surrounding air to tremble. Don't think that you can restrain me just because you have the mind's eye. I'll let you see my true strength now. Feng Qingyan was like a drop of ink falling into clear water, instantly scattering and turning into blue energy. Several dozen wind blades and wind spears flew at Chu Tian like a wild storm. It was too fast. Feng Qingyan's movement technique was very good. He could change his position several times in an instant. It was impossible for anyone to figure it out, much less attack it. His sword source spirit released a destructive might. With a gentle wave of the netherworld sword, a dark purple sword chi was released. The wind blades and wind spears that came from different directions were all easily cut apart. After Feng Qingyan finished gathering his strength, he gave an angry roar that was like the roar of a wild wind. His source spirit once again released a large amount of wind-attributed spirit energy, stirring up the air in the area, and forming a several-meter-tall tornado. It was a blue tornado. It was purely made of wind-attributed spirit energy. Countless small wind blades continued to form, just like a terrifying meat grinder. Wherever it went, nothing could stop it. Feng Qingyan's ancient cultivation technique was not an assassination technique. Although he could hide himself and create illusions, it was just a side effect. The true killing move of this cultivation technique was its extremely fast speed and destructive might. Feng Qingyan had already disappeared. Feng Qingyan was hidden in the giant tornado, using the thick wind spirit energy to interfere with his divine sense. With Chu Tian's current strength, he could not see through the tornado and lock onto Feng Qingyan's position. If he could not determine his position, How could he defeat the other side? I want you to die. As soon as Feng Qingyun's voice rang out, the giant tornado disappeared. It turned into a blue stream of wind blades that charged at Chu Tian. Chu Tian dodged to the side and countless wind blades fell like a storm where he was just standing, causing the center of the stage to cave in. Then the wind blades revolved around each other at a high speed, once again forming a large tornado. Powerful. Most people could not see it clearly. The tornado turned into a blue stream that moved from one position to another, as if it could teleport. The destructive might of the entire process was like tens of thousands of blades flying through the air. It was very terrifying. Actually, the tornado was formed from Feng Qingyun's source spirit energy, so it was always around Feng Qingyun. Whenever Feng Qingyun moved with his ghostly movement technique, this powerful energy would move with him. It could quickly sweep through an army, easily breaking through the enemy's formation. It was as powerful as 10,000 kilograms, destroying everything in its path. Ha 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 ha. How will you break this move of mine? The young man's simple gray robe was fluttering in the wind. His ordinary face was as calm as an ancient well without ripples. His eyes were as black as stars, reflecting the tornado. A smile gradually appeared at the corner of his mouth. Calm, calm. Everything was under control. Die. Feng Qingyun attacked again. The young man gently raised the blade that was as smooth as an ice mirror, and blue and white netherworld ghost flames came out, instantly swallowing Chu Tian's body. When the flames scattered, they had already disappeared without a trace. Feng Qingyun had disappeared. Chu Tian had also disappeared. The two of them had disappeared at the same time. Feng Qingyun could not find his target, but he gave a cold laugh. You think that I can't do anything to you just because you're hiding? The azure tornado spun at an even higher speed, and an extremely terrifying suction force seemed to want to devour everything around it. Countless wind blades spread out, and a terrifying tearing and cutting power swept across a large area. Wherever it passed, nothing was left unscathed. Chu Wufeng, Luo Jinshi, and Yi Hen's expressions all changed. They had no choice but to retreat to avoid being sucked in. Netherworld flickering flame slash. At this moment, a burning sword glow shot into the storm. It's no use, you can't break through my defenses and you can't hit me. Feng Qingyun was very confident. Fusing with the tornado, he could appear anywhere in the tornado. The burning sword glow slashed into the blue tornado, and like a match being thrown inside, large amounts of wind blades were swept by the burning sword glow. They were immediately touched by the blue and white flames, and were actually ignited. What? Feng Qingyun did not have time to be surprised. Another burning sword light slashed out from another direction, slashing at the tornado again, and injecting more netherworld ghost flames into it. The third slash. The fourth slash. The fifth slash. Chu Tian's sword was too fast. Dozens of flaming sword lights crisscrossed and circled around the green tornado. They were constantly nibbling away at the green tornado. Unexpectedly, the green tornado was under control. The blue and white flames continued to pour into the tornado, igniting the wind spirit energy. The more it burned, the bigger it became. In just a moment, the tornado had turned into half fire and half wind. The terrifying will-o'-the-wisp continued to burn, and the entire tornado was about to be completely ignited. Fire-suppressing wind. Fire-suppressing wind. The faster Feng Qingyun's spirit energy moved, the faster the netherworld ghost flames could spread. This time Feng Qingyun was completely panicked. Standing in the center of the tornado, he couldn't control his own strength at all. He was surrounded by the terrifying blue ghost flames in all directions, and that terrifying strength surrounded him. No! Damn! Damn! Feng Qingyun angrily roared out. Mayor Feng Yunlong also angrily stood up. He angrily glared at the burning tornado, just like a barrel of gunpowder that was about to be ignited. Shen Fengho sat in his seat rubbing his chin, revealing an interested expression. All the large families were shocked by Chu Tian's strange sword art. The sword technique displayed by this rogue cultivator was completely unheard of. He couldn't see the person, only the sword light. The sword light flickered in the void, as though it had escaped from the netherworld. The might of each sword strike was extremely tyrannical. He had never seen an assassin-type cultivation technique that could continuously attack. When Chu Tian was at the first awakened soul layer, he had used the Netherworld Flame Sword's flickering flame slash to defeat the triple awakened soul expert Chu Tungwen. Chu Tian was already at the second awakened soul layer. This Netherworld Flame Sword had also been cultivated to a higher realm, so its might had also increased. In this kind of situation, when combined with the mind's eye, each slash was very precise. Before Feng Qingyun could react, the entire tornado had been ignited. After several dozen slashes, everything was already irreversible. Ah! Ah! Feng Qingyun's angry roars turned into pitiful screams. He was now trapped in his own trap. He had released all of his spirit energy, but he never thought that it would become fuel for the Netherworld Flame. Now that he was surrounded by the Netherworld Flame, how could he be safe? When Chu Wufeng, Luo Jinshi, and Yi Hen saw this, they all had serious expressions. This rogue cultivator's sword art was very strong. The three of them knew that they wouldn't be able to defend against such an unpredictable sword technique. Let's go together. Now was not the time to care about face. If they didn't work together to deal with him, they would not be a match for this rogue cultivator at all. Rather than losing, it was better to lose a bit of face. Yi Hen's spiritual attack ignored distance, so he was the fastest to attack. When Chu Tian finished his attack and appeared, Yi Hen suddenly launched a sneak attack. A pair of rippling eyes released a strong spiritual energy. Chu Tian felt his head go dizzy. The entire world fell into darkness. His hands and feet were tied to a bloody torture rack, and Yi Hen was standing not far away with a long whip in his hand. There were all kinds of torture racks around him with all kinds of torture tools. Humph, humph, humph. No matter how mysterious your sword art is, when you fall into my hands, there is only death for you. You can only blame yourself for being too arrogant. Yi Hen walked over with a proud expression. I am the only master of this spiritual world. An instant outside is several hours inside. I have enough time to torture you. I'll make you beg for life, and I'll make you beg for death. I'll make your mind collapse. The flow of time in the spiritual world was different from the flow of time in the material world. Yi Hen could torture a person in the spiritual world for several hours, but when he returned to the outside world, it would only be an instant. This kind of terrifying spiritual attack could not be blocked with normal defensive cultivation techniques. This was one of the areas that Yi Hen was the most proud of. The third generation of the Ye family, Prince Tianlang, Yi Tianlang, had made a fool of himself in South Sky City. This allowed Yi Hen to see an opportunity. His talent was not inferior to his cousin Yi Tianlang's. Now that Yi Tianlang's reputation had been greatly damaged, this was a good chance for him to take over. This rogue cultivator was very strong. Even Feng Qingyun had been defeated by him. If he could kill this fellow in one fell swoop, then Yi Hen's reputation would become even more famous. He would become the pillar of the third generation of the Ye family. Yi Hen revealed a fiendish smile and said, "Accept your punishment." This kind of low-level spiritual illusion technique can only be used to deal with a country bumpkin that hasn't seen the world before. The chains that bound his hands and feet began to shatter, and the bloody torture rack turned to ashes. You think you can deal with me? Chu Tian fell to the ground and stretched his body. Playing illusion techniques with me? You're far from it. Chapter 158. His spiritual attack had been blocked. Why was it like this? Ever since his innate spiritual source spirit had awakened, Yi Hen's spiritual attacks had never failed. This was because there were very few people with innate spiritual energy in the southern summer country. No matter how strong a cultivator was, or how profound their cultivation technique was, their spiritual energy would not be able to defend against it. Unless the other side's cultivation base far surpassed Yi Hen's, or they had innate spiritual energy, making it hard for him to break through. This kind of possibility did not exist. Not only did this person's cultivation base not surpass his, it was actually much weaker than him. This kind of spiritual attack could only be resisted if he had innate spiritual energy, or if he cultivated a spiritual energy defense cultivation technique. But this did not make sense. His source spirit was clearly a sword. The sword source spirit was regarded as one of the strongest defensive source spirits. It was almost impossible for it to have a spiritual energy attribute. From the sword source spirit that he released, although the aura of his source spirit was very strong, it did not have any spiritual energy at all. Why? It is impossible for you to block my strength. The spiritual attack that Yi Hen was so proud of had actually been broken this easily. How could he not go crazy? When Chu Tian slowly raised his head, Yi Hen suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Chu Tian's eyes underwent a strange change. One of his eyes turned golden, and the other turned silver. Each of his eyes had 7 pupils that overlapped with each other. The colors of the pupils were all different, and it looked like a blooming 7-colored flower. An ancient and mysterious aura emanated from the pair of eyes. Yi Hen was instantly covered in a heaven-shattering feeling. He felt the spiritual illusion that he had personally created fall, and there was an irresistible strength that filled his mind, making him dizzy. Those strange eyes seemed to be magnified several times. The 7 pupils seemed to be slowly moving, and while they were moving, a strange strength was released from them. It was very strong, and it was like a demon god that could not be resisted. Are you proud of your spiritual illusion technique? With a hong sound, the illusory realm collapsed, and the fragments broke and reformed. A grand and ancient palace rose up, pitch black, ancient, and full of mystery. Yi Hen could not move. When he came back to his senses, his 4 limbs were nailed to a pillar, and he was surrounded by thousands of terrifying evil spirits. Each and every one of them had a murderous look on their faces, and they were eager to approach him. No. No. Get lost. Get out of my way. Chu Tian had disappeared, and what replaced him was a gigantic demon god. The demon god's full appearance could not be identified. One could only vaguely see that the demon god had 9 eyes. Each eye was of a different color, and each eye contained an unbelievable amount of demon god power. Didn't you want to kill me? Don't you want to torture me? Don't you like playing with illusions? Let me show you what a real mental illusion is. The towering demon god gently waved his hand and thousands of evil spirits crazily swarmed over, crazily gnawing at Yi Hen's flesh again and again, like an endless cycle of reincarnation. Ah! Yi Hen miserably screamed as he was torn apart alive. But he didn't regroup because he was freed. They were torn to shreds again. Reorganize again. This cycle continued until there were tens of thousands of Yi Hen. Each Yi Hen suffered the punishment of being torn apart by 100 ghosts. In reality, Yi Hen miserably screamed as he fell to the ground with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices, completely losing consciousness. His mind had completely collapsed. Although Chu Tian had spared his life, he would still be in a coma for a year and a half. He wouldn't be able to recover without 3-5 years. This genius that the Ye family was so proud of had completely lost his light. The Ye family members were all stunned. What is going on? Why was it that when Yi Hen used his mental technique, it was him who was hit in the end? Because the clash of spiritual energy happened in a split second. Luo Jinshi did not notice Yi Hen's miserable state. He quickly charged forward and turned into a golden lion. One fist was in the shape of a tiger and the other was in the shape of a lion. He brought with him a heaven-shaking might as he charged at Chu Tian. Lion-tiger dual phase. The Luo family's cultivation technique was fierce and overbearing, making it very destructive in close combat. Even someone as strong as Chu Wufeng did not dare fight Luo Jinshi in close combat. Chu Tian did not dodge at all, allowing Luo Jinshi to close in. A good chance. Kill him. The Luo family members all began to cheer. Chu Tian raised his sword to block and the netherworld sword absorbed a part of the energy. Then a layer of starlight appeared and the wild energy slammed into the starlight. The starlight shattered like a mirror. However, under Chu Tian's full force rebound, most of the energy was reflected onto Luo Jinshi. Ka! A crisp breaking sound rang out. Luo Jinshi's arms were broken and he gave a pitiful cry as he was sent flying into the air. Ha 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 ha! With just this kind of ability, you dare say you want to guide my cultivation? Luo Jinshi's face turned the color of a pig's liver. He never would have thought that not only would his full-strength attack not break the other side's defense, he would even be heavily injured by the rebound. Not long ago, he had arrogantly wanted Chu Tian to be the Luo family's dog, saying that he would guide his cultivation. He wanted to guide him like this? This was a resounding slap to his face. Scram. Chu Tian jumped up and sent out a kick. Luo Jinshi was sent flying out of the field, losing his battle strength on the spot. This time it was the Luo family's turn to be filled with anger. Luo Jinshi's terrifying destructive might could only barely break the other side's defense, and he had been heavily injured. Luo Jinshi's cultivation was above the other side's. Moreover, Luo Jinshi was a genius that the Luo family focused on training. His battle strength was much stronger than experts of the same level. How could he lose to a nameless nobody like this? Soul Sword Secret Art. Heaven Cutting Art. When Yi Hen and Luo Jinshi were both defeated, Chu Wufeng had already finished gathering his strength and once again released the strongest move of the Soul Sword Secret Art. The Chu family's sword art was known as the strongest family martial art in Central State, and the Heaven Cutting Art was the strongest move of the Soul Sword Secret Art. Your defense is indeed not bad. What use is there in being strong? Not to mention the fact that your cultivation technique has already been broken by Luo Jinshi's attack. It is impossible for you to condense it again. Even if you can complete that kind of defense, what use is it? My sword will still pierce through it. Chu Tian's mind's eye had already seen through everything. Whether he could block it or not, he was very clear in his heart. Chu Wufeng's sharp slash was not something that the small success Starlight immortal body could block. Chu Tian was not a fool, of course he would not be stupid enough to block it. Rise. The Netherworld sword was raised high up. The flaming tornado began to twist and large amounts of blue and white flames were separated. It was like a beautiful firework that was finally gathered by the blade. The flames that soared into the sky did not have a trace of heat. Instead it filled the entire area with a deep chill. Putong. When the flames were separated by Chu Tian, Feng Qingyan was finally freed. He had lost consciousness and fell to the ground. Although he did not have any internal injuries on the surface, after being burned by the Netherworld ghost flame, his meridians and source had been heavily injured. Although he did not die, he was already half crippled. Chu Wufeng knit his brows. What kind of move was this? It didn't matter. This person had to be killed with a single slash. Chu Wufeng released a heaven-splitting aura as he condensed all the strength in his body. He summoned a sword chi and stabbed it at Chu Tian. This slash was even stronger than the one he had sent at Feng Qingyan. The stage began to crack under the terrifying sword chi, and it was almost completely disintegrated. Chu Tian's Netherworld sword had absorbed a large amount of Netherworld flame, forming a power that was not inferior to Chu Wufeng's. He charged forward half a step. He disappeared. Netherworld Raging Flame Slash. A giant flaming sword glow cut through the sky. It was 10 times stronger than any of the sword glows from before. It was like the might of all the slashes had been merged into this one slash. It could be imagined just how terrifying it was. Chu Wufeng finally revealed a look of fear. Other than his brother Chu Xinghe, he had never seen such a strong sword aura before. The two extremely strong sword glows collided in the air. The flaming sword glow burned away the soul sword art sword chi that soared into the sky before wildly falling onto Chu Wufeng. Even Chu Wufeng's source spirit was shattered as he fell several dozen meters off the stage with a pitiful cry. Chu Wufeng, Luo Jinshi, Yi Hen and Feng Qingyan. For great geniuses. They had all been defeated. And it was a crushing defeat. Chu Tian had not only defeated several hundred of them, he had also heavily injured each one of them to the point where they were half crippled. It was impossible for them to recover in a short period of time, and even if they recovered, it would be hard for them to return to their former glory. Who else was there? Chu Tian stood on the stage that was in a mess. Like a new sun, the dazzling light pierced everyone's eyes. Chu Shanhe stood up and angrily roared. Who are you? Ha 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 ha. Do you want to know? This master will tell you. Chu Tian's figure changed, and he gradually returned to his original appearance. This new rising star was standing proudly on the stage as he loudly announced. Your grandfather Chu Tian is here. Chu Tian. He was Chu Tian. The nameless youth was Chu Tian. The youth that had been abandoned by the Chu family, banished by the Chu family, and even chased by the Chu family. This youth that no one cared about before, but with a speed that no one could have imagined, he had quickly risen in South Sky City. Chu Tian. The abandoned son of the Chu family, A youth that didn't even have the qualifications to enter the genealogy. Abandoned son? How ironic. The abandoned son of the Chu family had blocked Chu Xinghe's killing / shattering the fame of Chu Xinghe's 1/kill /. This abandoned son of the Chu family had shocked the entire Central State Great Games. With his own strength, he had easily defeated the top geniuses of the Chu, Luo, and Yi families. This abandoned son of the Chu family had faced Feng Qingyun, who was chasing after Chu Xinghe, but he had still easily defeated him without any hesitation. This was a rising star that could compete with Chu Xinghe. Was an abandoned son that had been banished by the Chu family. The destructive power of this was without a doubt on the level of destruction. The faces of the Chu family members all turned pale, as they powerlessly fell into their seats. What kind of humiliation was this? That's right. It's me. Chu Tian stood on the stage and shouted. I, Chu Tian, have come. The three great families felt like they had been slapped in the face several dozen times, and their faces were all swollen. The youth that they desperately wanted to kill was not only safe and sound, but he had also defeated the genius that they were most proud of. In a shocking and beautiful manner, he had entered the Central State stage, blinding your eyes. This was the effect that Chu Tian wanted. Miracle Commerce had entered Central State in the most shocking manner. The result that you didn't want the most was exactly what Father wanted to achieve. Chapter 159. Lu Ren had also used a disguise technique. Feng Kaidai had been killed. This disguise technique was more than 10 times better than hers. Even if they had known each other for a long time, she could not see through it at all. Feng Kaidai looked at Lu Ren with a face filled with surprise. She never thought that this young man would be so handsome, but he would turn himself into a mediocre person, pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. This was too bad. Chu Tian. Yi Tianlang and his son's eyes turned red. This was an irreconcilable enemy. This bastard actually dared to appear in Central State City. In a hidden corner. A mature black-veiled beauty's eyes opened wide in shock. Her body began to tremble as she found it hard to suppress her excitement. This person was Chen Bingyu. Chen Bingyu knew that the phonograph was invented by the founder of Miracle Commerce, Chu Tian. Even those magnetic sound discs could have been recorded by Chu Tian, so there was no senior at all. Everything was the masterpiece of this monstrous youth. Chu Tian had been in Qilin Hall for a long time, and she had even seen him several times. Had this expert always been by her side? Chen Bingyu was a martial arts fanatic. She did not have the eyes of the secular world. Age was an obstacle to her worship. This was an expert that she had always wanted to ask for advice from. Fuck. This world is too crazy. Yin Xiao was shocked as he revealed a look of disbelief. Boss has actually turned into Chu Tian. The most important thing is that he is even more handsome than me. Yin Yao was also speechless. No wonder he was so talented. No wonder even the explosive and arrogant Nangong Yin was willing to listen to his orders. If he was connected to South Sky City's genius, Chu Tian, then it would be easy to explain everything. Yin Tianhe revealed a knowing expression. Before Chu Tian founded Qilin Hall, Yin Tianhe had already investigated Lu Ren's background. Although he was not 100% sure, he was 70 to 80% sure that this youth named Lu Ren was South Sky City's Chu Tian. So he is Chu Tian. No wonder he is so strong. The people of the Chu family are really blind to remove such a person from their genealogy. The people of Central Continent City were all discussing this. Even though Chu Tian hadn't been active in the main city before, his several shocking actions had already spread his name throughout Central Continent City. All along, people had only heard of his name, but had never seen him. Today, this young man finally appeared in front of people for the first time. The three families had been trying their best to discredit Chu Tian for a long time. Central Continent City's newspapers and rumors were all filled with unfavorable opinions towards Chu Tian. Now Chu Tian had appeared in such a stunning way, instantly washing away most of the dirty water that had been poured on the three families. Chu Tian stood on the stage. Ignoring the ashen faces of the three families, he loudly announced, I, Chu Tian, am the chairman of Miracle Commerce. Today I officially announce that Miracle Commerce has entered the main city. The company that had created countless miracles. Was it finally going to enter the main city? Chu Tian had been in Central State City for 2 weeks, and the Tianjin Chamber of Commerce had already secretly built the magnetic sound tower. All kinds of materials had already been prepared, and from the blueprints to the production lines, everything had already been completed. Other than that, Chu Tian had won over Yun Tianhe, the Yun family, and even Chen Bingyu. He had prepared a strong protective umbrella for miracle commerce. Chu Tian had crossed the sea by deceiving everyone. All of this was done under the eyes of the 3 great families. When the 3 great families came back to their senses, miracle commerce already had the basic conditions to enter Central State City. Chu Tian had participated in the Central State City Great Competition, not only to slap the faces of the 3 great families, but also because he wanted to spread the news of miracle commerce entering Central State City. He wanted to gain enough attention so that when miracle commerce released products in the future, it would be hard for it not to be famous. He had done it. This was a power that was not strong, but it was enough to create a bloody storm in the seemingly stable Central State City. Impudent. The mayor angrily stood up. Central State is not a place for you to act wildly. Chu Tian stood up and spoke in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. For Sir Mayor to be so angry, this little one wants to know what I have done? What I have done? You still have the courage to ask what you have done wrong. The mayor's stage for the Feng family's genius had turned into Chu Tian's one-man show in the end. Feng Qingyun had been seriously injured and his future was hard to predict, so how could the mayor not be angry? The mayor wished he could cut him into 1,000 pieces. Sir Mayor. The head of the Chu family, Chu Shanhe, stood up and a powerful pressure was released. It made people feel like the mountains and rivers were collapsing and the sun and moon lost their light. For Chu Shanhe to become the head of the Chu family, it meant that he was not a normal person. He could release such a strong pressure without even releasing his source spirit. This meant that he was an illustrious soul realm expert at the 4th awakened soul layer. And not just at the 4th awakened soul layer. He had even reached the 5th or 6th awakened soul layer, almost stepping into the true soul realm. This child is a traitor to the Chu family. He has betrayed the clan and stolen secrets. He deserves to be cut into 1,000 pieces. Chu Shanhe's voice was stern as he coldly stared at Chu Tian. Then he cupped his hands to the mayor. The Chu family has cleaned up their family. The mayor will not blame us, right? The mayor returned to his seat and said with a gloomy face, Brother Chu's family matters. This mayor will not interfere. What a good Chu family matter. Chu Tian broke out in laughter. The Chu family has abandoned me. So how could I betray the clan? As for the mayor, you are narrow-minded and short-sighted. How could a person like you be fit to sit in the mayor's position? It would be better for you to scram. The mayor's face turned livid. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. South Heaven City's Chu Tian's arrogance had always been rumored, but everyone was skeptical. Now that they saw it, it really was the case. The Feng family had not been in Central State City for a long time. But even the 4 great families had to give the Feng family face. Chu Tian pointed at Feng Yunlong and scolded him. What kind of person was Feng Yunlong? He was the Central State City's mayor. In terms of position in the entire Central State County, Feng Yunlong was undoubtedly the #1 person. Chu Tian was just a brat that was still wet behind the ears, but he dared to scold the mayor in front of hundreds of thousands of citizens. Just this action was enough to cause a stir in Central State City. Thief. Don't be arrogant. Chu Shanhe soared into the sky, and a vast aura suddenly slammed into the ground. Under the intense pressure, the entire stage actually caved in. Mountain and river soared. Chu Shanhe raised his arms high up and white spirit energy soared into the sky, instantly condensing into a giant sword. The sword had 2 sides, one was a mountain range and the other was a river. It was like the power of the earth was completely suppressed within it. This was the source spirit of the Chu family head? Mountain and river sword. Sword suppressing mountain and river. The title of Central State's strongest family was well deserved. Chu Shanhe was close to the true soul realm. So when he summoned his source spirit to attack, it was not something a trivial void soul realm Chu Tian could block. If this sword hit Chu Tian's body, Chu Tian would die without a doubt, with no chance of survival at all. This was not just a little cultivation-based suppression. This was simply a gap that could not be crossed. Stop. An old voice reverberated through the world. The sky suddenly became dark and gloomy. Countless thunderclouds appeared out of nowhere, as if they were born out of thin air. In just 3 seconds, the thick layer of clouds filled the sky above the Grand Assembly. Hong hong hong. Several dazzling bolts of lightning shot down from the clouds, falling onto Chu Shanha's source spirit sword. The powerful heavenly thunder directly dissolved the power of the mountains and rivers. A white-haired old man in a white robe stood in the air, standing in the center of the countless thunder clouds. His body was surrounded by lightning, just like the legendary god of thunder that could control lightning. Thundercloud source spirit. It really was Yin Tianhe. The eyes of the Central State City citizens were open to a new world. The Yin family's source spirits were all of the thunder attribute. Yin Tianhe had the thundercloud source spirit, which could summon thunderclouds and control the power of thunder to attack. The most terrifying thing was that Yin Tianhe did not use any external objects. Rather, he used the power of the thunderclouds itself. This meant that his cultivation base was already in the true soul realm. Old bastard! Chu Shanhe angrily roared. You dare block me? Yin Tianhe's seniority was higher than Chu Shanhe by a level, so he should have already stepped down and become the remote great elder, supporting the new family head. Only the Chu family's situation did not allow Yin Tianhe to step down. So this old man who was almost 100 years old was the family head and the family head, so his cultivation base was a bit higher. Yin Tianhe spread out his hands, and the sky was filled with dazzling lightning. A terrifying pressure forced Chu Shanhe back several feet. The normally kind-looking Yin Tianhe was now like a god. If you want to touch him, you'll have to defeat me. Old bastard's cultivation base is suppressing people. I'll give you a hand. A brutal aura erupted from another direction as another family head flew out. His blood-red source spirit was released, and it turned into a two-headed wolf monster. It was the Ye family's family head, Yi Wudao. Among the people present, the one who wanted to kill Chu Tian the most was not Chu Shanhe, but rather Yi Wudao. The grudge between Chu Tian and the Ye family was the deepest. When the Ye family's tens of thousands of cavalry attacked the city, wasn't it because of Chu Tian? The Chu family's matters. Old man Yin is meddling too much. The Luo family's family head Luo Lianqing also made his move. Everyone was stunned seeing this. The Central State Great Games had turned into a fight between the 4 great families, and it was 3 against 1. Yin Tianhe seriously knit his brows. These 3 people were all juniors to him, but Yin Tianhe was too old, and had already passed his peak. His spirit energy had already regressed, and even though he was a true soul realm expert, he was still only in the 7th awakened soul layer. These 3 family heads were all in their peak years. They were at the peak 6th awakened soul layer, and were already half a step into the 7th awakened soul layer. When they were young, they were all dazzling geniuses. If the 3 of them worked together to deal with Yin Tianhe, it would be hard for Yin Tianhe to resist. Yin Tianhe did not have any intention of retreating. Alright, to prevent others from saying that I'm suppressing people with my seniority, you 3 juniors can come together. When the battle between the 4 great families was about to begin, a chill covered the entire area and countless crystal-clear snowflakes began to fall into the air. The faces of the 3 family heads fell. Chun Bingyu, what are you doing here? Chun Bingyu was surrounded by crystal-clear snowflakes as she slowly floated into the air. She stood behind the 3 family heads and attacked together with Yin Tianhe, using numbers to bully the few. I can't stand this. The mayor and principal could not sit still any longer. Enough. There are no rules at all. The 2 of them jumped down from the high platform, as if they wanted to join in. It's over. This time it's over. When the citizens saw this, they all felt a chill run down their spines. Once this battle began, the peak strength of Central State City would all be involved. No matter which side won, it would be a disaster for Central State City. The family heads and the mayor were all filled with an unprecedented rage. They even wanted to kill Chu Tian at all costs. Chu Tian was truly a barrel of gunpowder. He had just appeared and he had already caused such a large disturbance. The 4 great families, the academy, and the Feng family, all these powers were facing off against each other. This could be said to be unprecedented. Chapter 160. Chu Shanhe, Yi Wudao Luo Lianqing Yin Tianhe, the mayor's brothers, and Chen Bingyu were the strongest people in Central State City. If they fought, the consequences would be unimaginable. Not only would the entire conference be destroyed, even the commoners watching would not be able to escape. When this intense conflict was about to break out. Stop! A calm voice rang out. You're blocking this marquee way of fighting, aren't you not putting my existence in your eyes? As Shen Fengho spoke, his body seemed to lose gravity as he slowly floated up from his seat. His aura did not seem strong, but it had a kind of dignity that was hard to resist. The Divine Wind Marquis looked like a harmless person, but this Marquis had participated in the Spirit Beast War. He had killed countless enemies in the past, and was bathed in blood for many years, sweeping through the battlefield. There were countless fierce spirit beasts that had lost their courage upon hearing his name, so he was definitely a very fierce character. Once Shen Fengho appeared, everyone else's aura was weakened. Chu Shanhe said with an ugly expression, "Does the Marquis want to meddle in my Chu family's matters?" Shen Fengho lightly said, "I'm not interested in your Chu family's matters, but Chu Tian cured Katie's blocked meridian, so I owe him a large favor." Feng Katie's blocked meridian was actually cured by Chu Tian. The faces of the family heads turned very ugly. No wonder Shen Fengho had appeared in South Sky City to help Chu Tian. It seemed like as long as Shen Fengho was here, these people could not move against him at all. The mayor should have the demeanor and magnanimity of a mayor. Shen Fengho reprimanded Feng Yunlong. A loss is a loss. Could it be that only Feng Qingyun is allowed to be arrogant and Chu Tian is not allowed to be in the limelight? If you are inferior, then you have to admit it. There are no sore losers in the Feng family. The mayor tightly clenched his fists. He was not willing. You are all people with status, but you are all so narrow-minded. Where is the integrity of a Central State noble family? This Marquis has embarrassed you. If the upper beam was not straight, the lower beam would be crooked. It was no wonder that the descendants they had raised were all arrogant and domineering, wanting to cripple someone's cultivation at every turn, forcing them to be slaves, and not hesitating to sacrifice their lives for a moment of pride. How could such a disposition be of any use? How could he hope to lead the family to serve the kingdom when he was in charge of the family's interests in the future? On the other hand, Chu Tian always left a bottom line when he attacked. This was the true spirit of martial arts. All of you should learn from him. The Marquis is right. Chu Shanhe and the others suffered a setback. He could only bite the bullet and accept it. Shen Fengho and Feng Yuntian looked at Chu Tian with a hint of admiration in their eyes. Young man, your rate of improvement has surprised me. I was right about you. I hope that if he continues like this, he will one day become a pillar of Southern Xia. If it weren't for Shen Fengho, they would have been in trouble today. Chu Tian cupped his fists in gratitude. Thank you. Let's continue. Shen Fengho waved his sleeves and instantly returned to his seat. Everyone had to give face to Shen Fengho. They all returned to their seats with dark expressions. Although there was a series of chaos, the competition was not over. Only Chu Tian and Nangong Yin were left on the stage. Boss is truly formidable. I'm completely convinced. Nangong Yin said with a face full of excitement. However, we have never competed before. Why don't we use today's opportunity to have a good fight? Chu Tian grinned and deliberately provoked her. I remember that a certain beauty has been clamoring to beat me to the ground. I was so worried that I couldn't sleep at night. What happened in the end? I just showed a little bit of my strength and she was terrified. Motherfucker. You think I'm afraid of you? Watch this move. Nangong Yun's slender legs suddenly leaped up, and his entire body was emitting red essence force. A fire phoenix soared into the sky, and a resonant phoenix cry shook the entire stage. A divine beast's might suddenly surged out. Both of Nangong Yun's fists were burning with dazzling flames, and 4 to 5 fist shadows blasted towards Chu Tian. A god-level source spirit greatly increased one's battle strength. Nangong Yin borrowed the power of the fire phoenix, and her strength increased by several times. Although she had not reached the triple awakened soul realm, Her attack power was enough to shatter the protective spirit energy of a triple awakened soul realm master. Good move. Chu Tian's netherworld sword was covered in flames and a large sword glow was released. Each sword glow blocked Nangongyan's attack. And when Nangongyan's fists collided with the blade, most of them were absorbed and burned. Only a small portion of the energy was used on Chu Tian. The Fire Phoenix's power was very overbearing. Even the netherworld ghost flame had a hard time burning it. Chu Tian did not even think as he instantly released the Starlight Immortal Body and awakened the demon god's sword source spirit. When the sword in his hand was filled with the demon god's power, its destructive power increased by several times. Netherworld Flickering Flame. A burning sword glow charged at Nangongyan with a shocking speed. Nangongyan already knew how strong Chu Tian's sword art was. She immediately released the Starlight Immortal Body and released the Fire Phoenix Source Spirit's power to its peak. A layer of golden red flames covered her from head to toe. This layer of flames surrounded the Starlight Immortal Body's protection and formed another layer of energy protection. Break. Nangongyan's fist slammed into the sword glow, and with the sound of metal clashing, it actually changed the direction of the strong netherworld flickering flame slash. Large amounts of blue and white netherworld flames scattered around Nangongyan's body. The netherworld flickering flame slash was not only strong, the netherworld ghost flame was also very fatal. Not only could it weaken any defensive cultivation technique, it could also cause strong injuries to the human body. Nangongyan knew just how strong the netherworld sword was. Although this sword had not recovered to its peak state, it was still more dangerous than the divine wind sword in Fengkati's hand. Because of this, Nangongyan was already prepared. Other than the Starlight Immortal Body's defense, she also had a layer of flames formed from the Fire Phoenix's power. The Fire Phoenix's power was very strong, and it was hard for Chu Tian's current netherworld flame to ignite it. With this special defense, Nangongyan could temporarily resist the netherworld flame slash. Haha, your sword is useless against me. Nangongyan continued to block the sword glows coming from all directions as she wildly laughed with pride. Chu Tian did not use his full strength. After all, Nangongyan was on his side, and it wouldn't be good if she was heavily injured. But seeing that Nangongyan could easily block the flickering flame slash, Chu Tian was relieved. Not bad. Not bad. Nangongyan was a top talent. In terms of talent and source spirit, she was above Chu Xinghe. She just lacked opportunities and training. With the strength Chu Tian was currently displaying, it was more than enough to deal with a triple awakened soul expert, but it was still not enough to defeat Nangongyan. Nangongyan had already surpassed a normal triple awakened soul expert. Chu Tian's heart was filled with confidence. The demon god's sword lit up, and a thick demonic god's energy was poured into the netherworld sword. The sword glow instantly doubled as it slashed at Nangongyan. Nangongyan's arms were covered in flames as she raised them in front of her to block. Pung! Sparks flew in all directions. Nangongyan's body was covered in starlight, and she was sent flying 10 meters, almost falling off the stage. Chu Tian gently brandished his sword, and the flames floating in the air all gathered onto the sword. The originally 3.5-foot-long sword suddenly turned into a giant burning sword that was over a meter long. Netherworld Raging Flame Slash. When the Netherworld Flame Sword was trained to the small success realm, one could use the Flickering Flame Slash. When one broke through the small success realm and mastered the cultivation technique, one could use the Raging Flame Slash. Compared to the Flickering Flame Slash, the Raging Flame Slash was faster, stronger, and more destructive. The weakness was that the Raging Flame Slash needed a long time to charge up. While Chu Tian was practicing the Netherworld Flame Sword, he was constantly improving the cultivation technique. Chu Tian could add the charging stage to the Flickering Flame Slash, not giving the enemy any chance to interrupt him. Let's decide this in one move. Nangongyan gave a loud roar and the Fire Phoenix turned into countless golden flames. When it reformed, it turned into a giant golden bird. This was a move that Nangongyan had just comprehended. She had obtained inspiration from the great Nirvana scripture and combined it with the Nangong family's burning the heaven art. She had created this move. She did not have a name for it yet, but there was no doubt about its might. Chu Tian disappeared again. This time, it transformed into a gigantic flaming sword light that cut through the sky and slashed toward the golden flame bird. The instant the two collided, a violent explosion shook the entire arena. Blue-white flames and golden-red flames intertwined, forming a mushroom cloud that rose into the air. So strong, everyone was shocked. Feng Qingyun's loss was not an injustice at all. Even if Chu Tian did not participate in the battle, Feng Qingyun would not have been able to defeat Nan Gongyin. This was because Nan Gongyun's attack range was too wide, and the destructive power was too strong. No matter how good Feng Qingyun's illusion technique was, with the limited space on the stage, it was impossible for him to dodge this kind of attack. Chu Tian's sword directly cut through the flames. The sword fell onto Nan Gongyun's body. The starlight around Nan Gongyun's body shattered, and she flew out of the flames, falling outside the stage in a sorry state. When Chu Tian walked out of the flames, the starlight around his body was shattered. Your attack range is very wide, but it is not as concentrated as mine. If my defense was a little weaker or your destructive power was a little stronger, perhaps I would have lost. A loss is a loss. I'm convinced. Nan Gongyun stood up with a straightforward smile. Chu Tian had shown mercy to her in the end, only breaking her defense and not causing any serious injuries. Losing to you is not shameful. But don't be too happy. I will catch up to you sooner or later. The great competition was over. First place, Chu Tian. Second place, Nan Gongyun. Third place, Feng Qingyun. Fourth place, Chu Wufeng. Fifth place, Yi Hen. Sixth place, Luo Jinshi. There was no dispute over this ranking. Only the ranking from the ranking competition did not represent the final ranking. According to the previous competitions, the selection competition, the ranking competition, and the challenge competition had just finished 2 rounds and the final challenge competition had not begun yet. The so-called challenge competition was when the ranking competition ended. If a participant was not satisfied with the ranking, they could issue a challenge to them. Yun Xiao decisively jumped out. I want to challenge Chu Wufeng. The Chu family members all had ugly expressions on their faces. Chu Wufeng had been crippled by Chu Tian's sword, and it would be impossible for him to recover without at least a year. If Yun Xiao challenged Chu Wufeng at this time, was there even a need to fight? There was no need to say that Yun Xiao had replaced Chu Wufeng's position. Lin Mu challenged Luo Jinshi, and Feng Han challenged Yi Hen. In the end, even Feng Qingyun was replaced by Feng Kaidai. Feng Qingyun was already half crippled, and wouldn't be able to get out of bed for at least a year, and he wouldn't be able to recover without 2-3 years of treatment. Even if he was in the top 6, he still couldn't participate in the trial. It would be better to give it to someone else from the Feng family. The top 6 of the great competition were Chu Tian, Nan Gongyun, Feng Kaidai, Yun Xiao, Feng Han, and Lin Mu. The Chu, Luo, and Yi families almost exploded with rage. The final result was actually like this. Chu Tian had truly played a beautiful move to remove the firewood from the bottom of the pot. Not only had he defeated the 4 of them, he had also deliberately injured them so they wouldn't be able to recover in a short period of time, thus depriving them of the right to participate in the Central State Trials. The Central State Trials were very important to a genius. It was a springboard for a genius to take a step forward. The 4 of them were already very strong. If they participated in the Central State Trials, they would have reached a whole new level. In the end, they did not have this chance anymore. It was because they had offended someone they should not have offended. In the end, it was the Yin family's playboy and the 2 lowly mercenaries who took advantage of the situation. The Central State Great Competition that everyone was waiting for had ended like this. Chapter 161. The trial spots had been decided, and the competition was over. Out of the 6 incomparably precious trial spots, the Chu, Luo, and Yi families had not obtained a single one. The hopeless Yin family had obtained one, making everyone sigh. Brother Chu saved our lives in the Black Wind stronghold, and now he has given us a great opportunity. We will never forget this favor. Lin Mu and Feng Han came forward and bowed to Chu Tian. The underworld mercenary group is willing to work for Brother Chu under the banner of miracle commerce. Feng Han then said. Back in the Black Wind stronghold, Brother Chu had said that he had to do something with all his heart, and we have always remembered it. Now that we have come, I hope Brother Chu will not reject us. How precious was the trial opportunity. They had already offended the Ye family and the Luo family in order to obtain the trial qualification. With the strength of a small mercenary group, it was impossible for them to block the revenge of this giant. Now the wisest choice was to form a group with miracle commerce. Choosing this path means facing danger. Are you prepared for this? From the first day we became mercenaries, we were already prepared. Our dream was to become a free mercenary group, to go out and adventure, to see the world. Now miracle commerce has this ability. Ambition, dreams, and courage good. Chu Tian did not hesitate at all. Then from today onwards, the underworld mercenary group will be a mercenary group working with miracle commerce. Miracle commerce will buy 50% of the mercenary group's shares and invest in you. We will help you expand, provide you with talents, and provide you with resources. All you need to do is lead your team well. Yes. Greetings to the chairman. The two of them happily bowed to Chu Tian. Miracle Commerce was a large company and a large mercenary group. How could they not have their own private army? The underworld mercenary group had been established for less than 3 years and had a clean background. The two young mercenary leaders had ancient bloodlines and had good potential, so they were good targets for investment. Tell me the list of members, the members' resumes, the financial situation, and etc. Once you have organized this information, I will send people to complete the contract and procedures. After Chu Tian finished, he went to the Yin family. The Yin family had picked up a large bargain. How could Yin Tianhe not be happy? 100 tables of banquets were set up for the entire clan to celebrate. They even treated Chu Tian as an honored guest in a high-profile manner. This was to send a message to the entire city, especially to the Chu, Luo, and Yi families. The Yin family and Chu Tian were firm allies. From now on, whoever made an enemy out of Chu Tian would be making an enemy out of the Yin family. The 4 great families had been fighting openly and secretly all year round. They all had their own strengths and weaknesses, and kept each other in check. This time, the Chu, Luo, and Yi families were likely to join hands to deal with the Yin family. For the Yin family, this was undoubtedly a great deal of pressure. But Yin Tianhe firmly believed that Chu Tian was stronger than the 3 families' alliance. Come on! My Yin family will accept it. In terms of the number of experts, the Yin family was inferior to the Chu family. In terms of the size of their private army, the Yin family could not compare to the Ye family. In terms of political influence, the Yin family was inferior to the Luo family. However, the Yin family was a family of scholars with considerable influence in southern Xia. It would not be easy to destroy them. Mr. has entered the main city. The main city is about to become lively. Yin Tianhe broke out in laughter. After drinking a few cups of wine, his face was filled with joy. But since we're in Central State City, how can we not have a place to stay? Those 3 families have extraordinary methods and power. They have countless death soldiers, so we have to be on guard against them. Chu Tian of course agreed. Even if he didn't care, he had to consider the young miss and Yingying's safety. They couldn't live in danger all the time, right? Does old Yin have any suggestions? The Yin sect's new headquarters has already been completed. It has a martial field, training field, and laboratory. If Mr. doesn't mind, how about we give it to Miracle Commerce to use as their headquarters in Central State City? This old man was truly generous. How could the Yin sect's new headquarters be shabby? Yin Tianhe had his own plans. If the Yin sect gave their resources to Miracle Commerce, the Yin family would not suffer a loss. The Yin family's scholars would have an easier time entering Miracle Commerce. They could directly learn from Qilin Hall, and they could also ask Miracle Commerce for advanced technology. This was a mutually beneficial matter. Since it was like this, Chu Tian would not be polite. Yin Tianhe saw that the matter had been settled. There's no time to lose. Yin Yao will bring Mr. to familiarize yourself with the new home. If there is anything you need to improve, you can inform this old man. Yin Yao brought Chu Tian to the new headquarters. The Yin sect had two main courtyards, one in the north and one in the south. This new courtyard was even larger than the two courtyards. From the outside, it looked like a 9-way castle. Just the 3- and 4-story residential areas on the outside could fit several thousand people. There was a beautiful artificial lake, a beautiful back garden, a large beast carriage yard, and several experimental breeding areas. This level of luxury was even more exaggerated than the large family mansions. There weren't many mansions in Central State that could compare to this. Sturdy, safe. There were source energy arrays all around, and there were guards every few steps. These guards were all personally taken care of by the Yin family experts. Even with Chu, Luo, Yi and the Feng family's power, it would be hard for them to infiltrate this place. After looking at the outside, they began to look at the inside. It was just as Yin Tianhe had described. The main courtyard had everything. There were 6 martial fields, 10 training fields, various kinds of laboratories, large libraries, and material warehouses. It was enough to satisfy the needs of a large family. What you see is only a small part of it. Yin Yao and Chu Tian walk through a fake mountain. For example, this fake mountain, there are several sturdy secret rooms inside. The entire underground area is a fourth of the manor, and there are many secret passages that can be connected to the Yin family's secret altar. If there is an emergency, it can be changed at any time. It is an absolutely safe place. Chu Tian nodded. It's as though it's quite complete. There's nothing to change. Yin Yao saw his proud appearance and her heart felt a bit uncomfortable. The Yin family took 2 years to build this. Do you know how much it cost to build this land in the main city? Not to mention the restrictions protecting the house and the value of the equipment inside. The Yin family didn't use it, and it was picked up by you. At this time, suddenly, a black shadow passed by the fake mountain in front of them. Who is it? Could it be that those powers were in a rush to send people to assassinate Chu Tian? Yin Xiao had just boasted about how tight the security here was and how safe it was. In the end, an assassin had come to assassinate him before he could even finish speaking. This was a big loss of face. Stop for me! Yin Yao angrily roared. She suddenly shot forward. Her body was covered in lightning as she sent a palm out at the other side. The black shadow gently swayed and easily dodged the palm. It grabbed Yin Yao's wrist and pushed her back. Yin Yao fell to the ground and staggered a few steps, not being able to stabilize herself. Damn! Yin Yao revealed a trace of anger. She never thought that the other side would be an expert. Just as Yin Yao was about to unleash the full power of her source spirit, she felt an icy cold current spread through her meridians where her opponent had just grabbed her. In a very short period of time, it had spread throughout her entire body, making her feel a bone-chilling cold. Even her spirit energy had been frozen, as if there was no way to circulate it. Such a strong strength. I am not this person's opponent. Yin Yao's face changed several times. The black shadow did not want to fight and turned to escape. Ayaya, coming and going at night, I never thought that Vice Principal Chen would have this kind of interest. Chu Tian leisurely said. But since you're here, why are you in such a rush to leave? How about you sit down and have a cup of tea? What? It was Chen Bingyu. Yin Yao was shocked. No wonder she couldn't beat him. Chen Bingyu was in the true soul realm. She was a super expert in the late awakened soul realm. The black shadow hesitated for a few seconds before gently jumping off. She was like a light snowflake, slowly falling down from the fake mountain. Her plump and mature body was wrapped in tight black clothes. Her plump and towering twin peaks and her round and alluring buttocks that were like honey peaches were really curvaceous, showing off her mature and plump beauty. Her pair of slender and tight thighs were too fat and too skinny. One could feel the wonderful elasticity and vitality without even touching them. Zizi, such a good figure. Of all the women that Chu Tian knew, perhaps only the young miss could compare to her. When Chen Bingyu saw Chu Tian, her expression was a bit nervous and awkward. She had a cold personality and was not good at expressing herself, so she dryly said, I've been presumptuous. You should have been following me since the beginning of the competition. Chu Tian helplessly spread out his hands. What do you want to do? Could it be that you want to kidnap me just because I'm handsome? Yin Xiao wished he could tear this fellow's mouth apart. Did this bastard not know who the person in front of him was? Was the Ice Queen someone that you could take liberties with? Chen Bingyu's personality was famous for being bad. She did not smile or speak well. But she did not need to because anyone she offended had been turned into an ice sculpture. Chen Bingyu did not have a sense of humor, so she honestly explained. After you left the competition, there were people following you, so I took care of them. I followed you because I was afraid that Chu Shanhe and the others would make a move. Oh. Then I really must thank you. Chu Tian looked at this slightly reserved woman, and then looked at Yun Yao beside him. Alright, young Miss Yun can go back and rest first. I'll talk to Vice Principal Chen alone. Chen Bingyu had helped Chu Tian in the competition, and Chen Bingyu also wanted to join Qilin Hall, so she should not have any bad intentions. Moreover, with Chen Bingyu's high cultivation base, if she really had bad intentions towards Chu Tian, it would not matter if Yun Yao stayed or not. So she said her goodbyes without even thinking about it. Chu Tian looked at this cold and inarticulate woman. What do you want to say? You can tell me now. Yes. She was clearly much older than this youth, and her cultivation was also much stronger than this youth. However, when she stood in front of this youth, she felt as if she was facing the vast sea and the starry sky. That vast and deep sense of mystery made her feel a little awe. Chen Bingyu took out a scroll. My cultivation base has not improved in 2 years, and there are many obstacles in my cultivation that I can't think of a way to solve, so I want to ask you to help me take a look. So it's like this. Let me take a look. In front of Chen Bingyu, everyone felt as if they were walking on thin ice. However, this youth was very carefree, completely at ease. It was like he was talking to a good friend, or even a junior. On the other hand, Chen Bingyu felt a bit uncomfortable. She felt like this was an old monster wearing a youth's skin. Chen Bingyu was a martial arts fanatic, similar to South Sky City's Xiong Tianyan. With this kind of personality, she was destined to not be too worldly. She would not look down on someone because of their age or cultivation base. The world was big and there were all sorts of strange things. There really were heavenly geniuses that existed. On this, Chu Tian opened the scroll and looked over it. After looking over it, his mind began to turn. The cultivation technique you cultivate, is it an ancient cultivation technique of unknown origin? Yes. Have you cultivated it to the large success realm? Yes. Do you feel a chill every time you cultivate? Do you feel your spirit energy freeze every time you try to break through to the next realm? Chen Bingyu's snow-white cheeks were already flushed with excitement. Yes. Chu Tian knit his brows and said, This is a bit serious. Your ancient cultivation method was not created for humans in the first place. Chen Bingyu's eyes stared at him. What? This is a foreign race cultivation technique that was transformed into a human cultivation technique. Only the level of the person who changed the cultivation technique was not high enough, so the transformation was not successful. It can only be considered a half-finished product. You also know that different races have different physiques, different acupuncture points, and different meridians. This cultivation technique is very good, but if you cultivate it, the side effects will appear. What should I do? Vice Principal Chen, forgive me for speaking bluntly, this is a bit troublesome. Chu Tian rolled up the scroll and pretended to have a headache. If your cultivation level is not deep enough, then you can just waste it and not cultivate it. But you have already cultivated it to the large success realm, and are about to reach the perfection realm. The cultivation technique will affect your source spirit, and once you waste it, your cultivation base will drop. The gains will not make up for the losses. What should she do? When Chen Bingyu had found this cultivation technique in the ruins, she had been captivated by the profoundness of the cultivation technique. She did not think too much about it before cultivating it. After cultivating it for 10 years, how could she waste it just like that? Was there really no other way? You're lucky. If you hadn't met me, even the great scholar Gu Qianxiu wouldn't have been able to help you. Chu Tian gave the scroll back to her. Stay in the Qilin Hall for a while and write down the complete cultivation technique for me. I'll find the right medicine and help you solve your problem in a month. Chen Bingyu happily clenched her fists. Really? It's fine if you don't believe me. No, I believe you. Chu Tian secretly laughed in his heart. This fellow was truly pure. Wouldn't it be easy for Chu Tian to solve her problem? Chu Tian did not immediately give her an answer, or help her solve it, letting her stay in the headquarters. With a great deity like Chen Bingyu, Chu Tian would not have any worries. Then he would slowly help her improve her cultivation technique, and let her see how hard Chu Tian worked. He would do a difficult thing for her, and help her get out of her predicament. Wouldn't she be grateful to Chu Tian like this? At that time, hey. Chu Tian revealed a naughty smile. This matter was decided like this. The young Miss and Ying were coming, so Chu Tian had to tidy up the new house and prepare to welcome the two sisters. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.